Hello, my name is Michael L. Varhola. I'm with Skirmisher Publishing and D-Infinity Online. And tonight we're going to be playing the next segment of our In the Footsteps of Hercules campaign, in which our characters are pilgrims walking a trail dedicated to the demigod Hercules and recreating through votive acts his various labors. Tonight, however, they're going to be going off on a side quest as a result of what they experienced in their last couple of sessions and some eventualities that have come up at the place that they're visiting right now. So I'm going to have everybody introduce themselves and their characters very, very briefly, and then I'll give a quick recap of where their characters are at and what they're going to be doing, and then we will turn it over to them and move ahead with our game. So why don't we just go in, I assume everybody's looking at everybody on the screen in the same order. Why don't we just start from my right and with you, Brenda.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm Brenda Katz. I'm playing Abderos. Abderos is a monk dedicated to an aspect of Hermes that protects the roads. So he's a martial artist and he is socially inept.
Perfect. Amanda?
Hello, I'm Amanda Call, and I am playing Vafea. She's a dyer, a craftswoman. So she's actually, the character class is an expert, which is one of Skirmisher's own character class creations.
For 5th edition.
And for 5th edition, yep. And yeah, so she's basically just a normal person who's off doing this pilgrimage before she settles down into her trade.
Perfect. And Penny?
I'm Penny Staples. I'm playing Deianira. Deianira is an Amazon ranger who joined in with this bunch partway through their pilgrimage, and she is finding the Greeks to be a fairly strange bunch.
And so they are. Dad, Michael H.
So my character is Eumaeus, a semi-retired soldier from the island of Kos. He is proud of being a peltast, a light infantryman, and he is rarely seen without his foxskin cap and his crescent-shaped shield.
Perfect. And finally you, Paul.
So Chaz is an entertainer who happens to be a satyr from a troop that hangs around near Athens. He's a druid and has some bardic abilities as well.
Perfect. So when we begin, this party that we just described is in the northern half of the Peloponnesian Peninsula. You are currently at a hospital compound called the Asclepius of Lerna. And Lerna is a region in the northeastern part of the Peloponnesian Peninsula of mainland Greece, just off the Gulf of Argos, named for a now dry lake called Lake Lerna. And the Lerna area is where Hercules fought the Lernaean Hydra. So when we begin, you are at the Asclepius of Lerna, this hospital, which is famous for its dream temple, a place where people can go and be treated for what we'd call psychological disorders, but what to people in this era are going to feel like spiritual disorders. And two of you ended up with cursed weapons, and we won't go into the whole backstory on that, but they've determined through what they did in our last session at the Dream Temple that there are malignant spirits connected with these weapons, and these malignant spirits will manifest to help guide your hand in battle and cause you to go into a bloodlust and not be able to control yourself, and possibly kill people that you might not want to kill in the course of battle with them. So you have been given a choice based on their analysis. They've got a crisis going on, and one of their 4 doctors is missing. Her name is Galen de Massilia. She's from the city of Massilia at the western end of the Mediterranean. She's visiting the Asclepius on a 1-year visitation. She did a small pilgrimage, which should have been just a 1-day hike, about 5 miles into the swamps to a place called the Spring of Amymone. And the Spring of Amymone is a spring located in a cave where Hercules went and found the Hydra, fired fire arrows into the cave, drew it out, and then battled and killed it. So it's also dedicated to a goddess named Amymone and her 49 sisters. And there's a whole story associated with that, and we might tell you that story at some point, but we're not going to go into it in any detail right now because we want to move forward with the game. But she went on a hike, should have been 2 or 3 hours out through the swamps on the rough trails. She should have been able to do her votive acts there and returned long before dark, and she's now been gone 2 nights. So you've been given a choice. If you would like them to perform a ritual in the Dream Temple that simply removes these weapons from you so that you no longer are able to use them without re-incurring the curse, they can do that. They can do what essentially would in game terms be a remove curse. They can detach the weapons from you. They'll no longer be magical or usable to you. But you will no longer have the bloodlust curse associated with them. Or if you can assist them in getting back this other doctor, they will then perform a more prolonged ceremony for you in which they will remove the evil spirits and you'll still have the magical weapons, but without the evil spirits attached to them. And I think the decision that your party came to last session was that you were going to just deal with the curse, put up with it, go and find this doctor, bring her back, and then do the more prolonged ritual. And just assume that there's not going to be any repercussions from having these cursed weapons in hand while you're off looking for her. You can change your mind on that. I'm not railroading anyone. You don't even have to go find her. You're not required to do anything. You've had a few hours to think about it. But when we begin, it is the morning after you've arrived at the Asclepion of Lerna, and this Galenda Massilia has still not returned, and you are now at breakfast, eating your toasted stale bread and drinking your tea, and deciding what you're going to do. So I'm going to turn it over to your party to discuss with me, to discuss amongst yourselves, and decide what you'd like to do. It's kind of a gloomy day. Is a lot of mist hugging the ground right now. It's uncharacteristically cool and damp for the time of the year. You could see the lead doctor, Demetrius Asclepiadis, come into the refectory, and he glances over at you, and you know that he's kind of eager to find out what your decision is. He goes to get himself a cup of tea and his breakfast, and chats with one of the people working in the refectory, rather than coming over and pestering you while you're deciding what you're going to do.
Well, I think we had pretty well decided we wanted to try to help in the search effort to find this missing doctor.
Okay.
I haven't changed my mind. I don't know if any of my companions have or not.
No, I'm still on board.
Okay. All right. Did anybody in the time that you would have had to get more information have any questions about any of this? Some of you have been to the Spring of Amymone. You went to it on your way to the Asclepion, and you know that it's about 5 miles away from where you are through the swamps. If you have any questions, I'll answer them for you. Dr. Asclepiadis comes over and nods and says good morning to you. If you don't have any questions, he will see you on your way.
So has your staff or previous travelers noted, because I wasn't along for that particular journey, any natural dangers or hazards that we should be aware of? Quicksand or anything like that?
There's all that. He notes, and you've sort of picked up, that the whole valley, probably about a 5-mile wide stretch of coast that then goes inland about another 5 or 6 miles in sort of a triangle-shaped wedge, used to be farmland, forest, and then about 100 years ago during the Great Cataclysm, the area ended up settling a bit. Some springs broke out in the nearby hills, and all of this forest and farmland, which now was essentially lowland, ended up getting completely saturated. So what it is this wedge-shaped area, about 5 mile wide triangle of land, 5 miles deep, of rotting forest and sodden fields and sunken hamlets. So yeah, it's really hazardous. There are a lot of areas that have been built up by pilgrims to make it easy to hike to the shrine. There are little bridges connecting little islands, but a lot of the time you're trampling over, small single plank bridges that might not have hand railings. If you fall in, you're falling into water that, if it's raining, might have some current to it. So yeah, it's a hazardous environment. And there have been rumors lately about pilgrims that have disappeared, who were supposed to show up at the Asclepion and never did, or who left the Asclepion and never made it home.
Okay, thanks.
All right, we'll say that your party sets off in short order.
Hey, sorry, me again.
Oh, that's all right.
I do have a logistics question.
Yeah.
We have this flask of Amymone, right?
Yeah.
Who's carrying that?
That's a good logistics question. Because that
Is
flask, it's
is it Nafaya? I seem to think you had a flask.
You all can decide. You don't have to decide who used to be carrying it. You can just decide who's carrying it now.
I'm fine with carrying it again. That's fine.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't care who carries it. I just
I'll
would like
make
to know
sure
who
I have
has
it.
it. Right. Okay.
Written down in my equipment.
It is notable, perhaps, that the personage affiliated with this flask of what would you call it in game terms? A flask of unending water? Is that what it is?
Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, it's basically a flask that you can open up and either pour water out of or gush water out of. But it is named for this minor goddess who was a wife of Poseidon, for whom the spring is apparently also named. But you didn't find the flask at the spring. There don't appear to be any, connections to it other than the name. So, but it might be significant. That's a good logistical question, Paul. So, well, your party sets off then. And initially, you are hiking along a muddy trail. You hike up from the Asclepion, and within about a half mile or so, you find yourselves moving northeast at the village of Nea Lerna. So it's a relatively new village. It's really only a few decades old. It subsists itself on farming and fishing. And there, you more or less hang a left and begin heading northward through the village, past it, and then into the swamps. So on your left, the hills are rising up. There are groves of orange trees and olive trees for the first mile or so that are tended by the village. So you're on a bit of high ground, walking along the rising ground. To your right, things drop off into swamp. And you see a lot of water, a lot of rotting trees. And the path for the first couple of miles is in pretty good shape. And then after a couple of miles, it starts to get a lot rougher, has a lot more rain damage, is a lot less likely to be repaired. But we won't belabor it. I already determined that you don't have any encounters on your way to the spring. It's about 5 miles. So it probably takes you just a hair over 2 hours going through the kind of terrain that you're going through. So after about 2 hours, you come to a place where the path diverges. To your right, it heads pretty much eastward into the swamp. And to your north and ahead of you, it begins to climb in a series of switchbacks up the hill. And you can see from where you are what looks like a cave mouth, and then something small, like a small cave mouth up on the side of the hill to the right of it. And by the time you get up to the top of the hill, we can bring up our encounter area map, and I will describe to you what you see. And is that in roll 20, Brenda?
Is what in roll 20?
The map.
Yes.
Okay, let me shift over to that. All right, why am I not seeing the map? Should I refresh?
No.
See darkness. The map is darkness.
That's not working. Wait, I want to.
All right, well, I'll just keep describing while you're setting that up because we're not quite in tactical time yet. So you've moved up the side of the hill and you are standing on a spit of ground that goes up to the side of the hill, drops off into a ravine to your left, drops off in the direction of the swamp to your right. Ahead of you, you can see a small copse of trees to the left, and straight ahead of you, what looks like a cave mouth. So ahead of you, there's a 10-foot wide cave mouth, maybe 10 feet high. It looks semi-improved. So it might have originally been 8.5 feet wide, and it's been sort of smoothed out and improved a bit. To the left of it, there is some shrubby trees. About 30 feet to the right of it, and then 30 feet above it, is a 5-foot wide window in the side of the rock. And set into this window or little doorway, you can see what looks like a bronze basin that's nested into a stone tripod or holder. And then beyond this basin, you can see what looks like a small chamber. And from where you are looking up into this chamber, you can see the images of many, many different women, probably 3-foot high statues, carved in rows on the wall. Okay, so this is looking up to your right, 30 feet over, 30 feet up, in this little doorway in the side of the hill, no way to get to it, is this bronze basin. It looks like a colander set in a wooden or stone frame. And then beyond it, you can see a chamber with these statues. And then directly ahead of you, you can see the cave mouth that presumably leads into the, well, some of you know, it leads into the spring of Amymone. So that is what our encounter area map shows. So as soon as we can bring that up, you'll be able to see that as well.
What is there for traffic in this area, Mike? Like, are there lots of people coming and going from this area, or are we the only ones?
You're the only ones that you've seen today. But keep in mind, most people who visit the spring of Amymone, they're coming from the city of Tiryns. So they're actually hiking a total of about 14 miles to get there, whereas you only hiked 5 miles and you left early in the morning. So they would be coming from the direction of the swamp where the path diverges. I told you the path diverges into the swamp. They'd be coming from the village of Paleolerna to the northeast, and they would have gone through the swamp. So there will probably be people showing up in 2 or 3 hours, assuming they left the city of Tiryns at the same time you left the Asclepion. So you haven't seen a lot of traffic, mostly because the traffic doesn't come from the hospital to the spring. It usually comes from Tiryns, the town of Tiryns, to the spring, and then from the spring to the hospital. That's the traditional pilgrimage route. Okay, so no, you on your way out, you did see farmers. You saw pilgrims working in the orange groves, because that's how pilgrims negotiate an extra day in the hostel at the hospital. They work in the olive groves. They drain water out of the swamp and carry it up to the hill to the olive trees and water the olive trees. So they're draining the swamp in an incremental way and watering the trees. And then you saw other farmers, and they all greeted you with the greeting of the trail. In his footsteps, in the footsteps of Hercules. So you did see normal traffic for a couple of miles. You've seen normal animals since then, small deer. But for the last 3 miles on the way to the shrine, you didn't see anything. And it'd probably be a few hours before any other pilgrims show up, if any are going to show up today.
And where in relation to here did this priestess disappear?
Well, she said she was going to the spring that you have just arrived at, which is supposed to be located in the cave there. She said she was going there, so it would have taken her 2 or 3 hours to get there. She would have done what she was supposed to do. She probably would have been gone a maximum of 7 hours, even if she rested a bit while she was there. So,
do we know that she got here?
You do not know that she got here. No.
So there's nobody. There's no attendants who live here or anything.
No. It is.
Right.
There are no amenities. It is a cave. There is a spring inside the cave, and you know from what you've heard that from within the cave you can get up to the area where you see that basin. So there's that doorway in the side of the hill, and you can get up to it once you're in the cave. There's a stairway that goes up to it. But you don't know, in fact, whether she made it here or not. Why don't you go ahead and make a perception check? Anyone who would like to can make a perception check.
Sure. So. Ooh, that was a pretty decent roll. That's going to be a 24.
A 24. That is really good. Mine's
an 8.
Oh no.
Get an 8. Okay. Well, there might be some other rolls that only you are qualified to make, Diana.
Perception is one of my character's few strong points.
It's because she lives in a small village outside of Corinth, and everybody watches each other. So
true.
that is the characteristic.
It's the busybody feat.
It's the busybody feat. Able to keep track of what's going on in the village. It hasn't rained heavily in the last couple days. It's misted quite a bit. And we're going to assume that your character, you're very perceptive because you rolled really well, and you were actively looking. So I would not have let this be a passive thing. You could not have found what you have just found passively. You could only find it by actively scanning. There are weird marks in the mud leading up to the mouth of this cave. Weird marks in the mud that, and you don't know what has caused them. You don't recognize them as, there we are. There's your party. You could see directly ahead of you the mouth of the cave. To the left and right of it, you can see some vegetation, little copses of shrubby trees. To the right and 30 feet up, you could see this basin set in a stone socket. So it looks like a spaghetti colander, a big 5-foot wide bronze spaghetti colander is what it looks like. And it's set in a stone socket. And then behind it, you could see what looks like a chamber in the hill with the images of these women carved into it. And we'll assume that your party they're fine where the figures are right now, but we'll assume that you're sort of spread out and people are just sort of poking around. You haven't gone in the cave yet, but we're going to assume that you're dispersed and everyone's just sort of walking around. And you notice the glint of something metallic, Amanda, Thea, pressed into the mud near one of the trees ahead of you and to the left. So you're about another 30 feet ahead, Thea. You've walked up, you're looking around, and you see something where surrounded by these strange marks in the mud that have been softened a bit by the misting. But you see something metallic pressed into the mud, and you just notice a little bit of a glint of it, and you can see there's more to it, like there might be a piece of leather cording attached to it.
I would like to try to dig out whatever it is and get a better look at it.
Yeah, and it isn't even as hard as digging it out. You can reach down and pull the cord up from the mud and pull it out, and you're looking at a mud-caked silver amulet. It's small, and it looks like a little silver representation of a rod or a staff with a single snake wrapped around it. And it has a little ring at the top for a leather cord, and the leather cord has been snapped.
Oh no.
And it looks like one of these weird impressions in the mud sort of pressed it into the mud. And there's a lot of, looks like there's a lot of disruption right around where you're at. It's up by that tree to the upper left.
Okay. Huh. Well.
So obviously she made it here.
Well,
I would certainly think so.
Or somebody did.
I'm up here now.
I will note, and being a craftswoman, you might pick up on this, the silver is not particularly tarnished. So this is not like this was exposed after being buried in the mud for months or years. It hasn't been here long. You can tell that you know, I mean, I don't know, silver tarnishes pretty quickly, but it's not blackened or anything like that. It hasn't been buried that long here.
Well, this is one of the symbols of the Asclepion. I wouldn't be surprised if this actually belonged to her and she must have come this way.
Good thing you are so perceptive, because a lot of normal characters wouldn't have picked up on that.
So I'm showing my party this, that I found this, and invite them to examine some of these weird markings in the mud. I don't recognize any tracks or anything here. It almost looks more like a struggle or something.
Is there anybody who's good at identifying tracks? Anyone want to give that a try with a survival check?
I'll try it.
Nature check, survival check, nature check, whichever might be appropriate. Yeah, go ahead, Dayanara. You are a ranger, aren't you?
Yes. Do I get advantage on this?
What would grant you advantage on that? I mean, other than just
the fact that I'm a professional. No, I don't see anything on my sheet.
I think you're attuned to grasslands in particular.
Yeah, so which I've never haven't been in since I left home. All right, perception.
You've been through a few grasslands since you left Olympia. You just haven't had the fortune of having any fights or needing to track anything in them.
16. Northeastern Greece by Thrace is all grasslands. That's why those are the only horse people of Greece.
There you have it.
16.
Okay, well, presumably Vafea points out to you the weird marks that she sees, and she can't really tell what they are. To you, Dayanara, they look like footprints. They don't look like human footprints. They don't look like they're shod in any way. They look like they might be the footprints of
Hercules.
These are the furthest thing from the footprints of Hercules. No, they look like they might be the footprints of a crocodile.
Of a which?
Crocodile.
Ah.
Yes, a witch crocodile.
Are there crocodiles in this area?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, sure.
Oh,
all along the coast, all along, in that swamp down below you, there are presumably innumerable crocodiles. Yes, yeah, there are. You didn't happen to see any on your way out, but you know, they keep scarce and they stay away from people until they're hungry enough. You wouldn't necessarily have expected to see them this far up on the side of the hill. I mean, a crocodile up here presumably would have had to get up here the same way you did, and it would have had to go up these switchbacks up the side of the hill. So it might be a little hard to envision a crocodile doing that. But yeah, sure. There are plenty of crocodiles. There's no shortage of them. Just looking for my monster manual. Think about what you're going to do while I grab my monster manual.
Fix the fucking map is what I'm gonna do.
What you going to do?
Huh?
Map fighting you?
Yeah, no, just the boundaries for the vision were all wrong.
So Vafea has found what is clearly a symbol of the god Asclepius, which is often going to be something worn by a physician. You don't know that it belonged to Galenda Massilia, but
It's not a
weird
terrible assumption.
right. And then marks that were completely alien to you, Vafea, were identifiable to Penny as, to Dianara, the Amazon, as what throws you off, Dianara, is that they look like crocodile tracks, but they're not aligned like crocodile tracks.
All right.
Okay? And your party told you about this weird thing that they fought here months before when they visited this valley. And it was a 5-legged monstrosity that looked like a hydra with 5 legs and 5 heads. And when they beat it to death, it ended up breaking into 5 constituent parts, which is to say 5 unfortunate humans who had been joined in some foul ritual into some hideous hybrid creature. And then they had to perform first aid on these poor people before they died. These poor people were, by the way, the Harpastum players. They were the Harpastum team who had been captured
Terrible
by
Harpastum players.
They'd been captured by somebody, and they didn't remember who. They'd been drugged, and they remembered shadowy figures and weird chanting and being turned into some kind of a creature. But whether it had crocodilian feet, you don't remember that. Nobody in the party remembers that being the case. What I'm saying is weird stuff has happened here before. So the fact that it looks like crocodile feet, but they're not lined up in the way that a crocodile would move. There's no belly marks that you would expect, for example. There's no tail. Well, no, I guess maybe there are some tail marks. Anyway, looks like crocodile, kind of, but kind of not.
My favorite enemy are monstrosities.
That is correct.
So would that information give me anything more? You know,
it
she
would
have been transformed.
Well, what would it tell you? If this is some kind of a hydra, with, I don't know, if it's some kind of mutant hydra that has crocodilian feet because it's a swamp-based monster, and its belly is high enough that it doesn't rub on the ground, and its feet are kind of misaligned or weirdly aligned. Yeah, it could be a monstrosity. It could in fact be a hydra that isn't lined up in any kind of a natural way. That's certainly a possibility.
Can I track it to where it went?
Well, that is the question, isn't it, Dianara? Can you track it to where it went? Possibly. We'll address that presently. Are you all leaving this area already? Are you attempting to track it? And if it leads you away, heading away from this area right now? Or no?
Well, I think if you can pick up a trail for it, it would be worth investigating, since the creature's prints are right here. The only possible trace we've found of her has been right here.
On the other hand, this is a pilgrimage. Do you want to go in and, since we're here?
Well, you're here, and you are pilgrims, and some of you haven't been here yet. At least one of you, and I forget who, was interested in trying to find out if there was some correlation between this site and the bottle. There are votive acts that you could perform, and sometimes performing a votive act at a holy site can give one appropriate advantages in whatever challenges they have ahead of them.
So how long did this?
That's the way it works. That's the way it works in adventures and in Greek legends of heroes. And there might be some clues in there as well. So if you would like to attempt to follow the tracks at this point, we can do that. If you'd like to visit the pilgrimage site while you're here, we can do that. Decide what you're going to do either as individuals or as a party. If you're splitting the party, we'll just versus separately.
So how long did this take from here last time you were here?
Well, you've never been here.
No, I haven't. I'm asking the rest of the group that has been here. Like, you know, how much?
They would have come from Nea Lerna and come in here from a different direction. It probably would have taken them. They came from Tyrans, so it probably took them about 4 hours.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Have they been to this particular point before, or is there another?
They've been to this point before, though. Just to be a little meta, we redeveloped it slightly differently since they were there because what we had before was not as satisfying. So this is a revised version of what they saw before.
So all I'm getting at is from where we are right now, how much longer will it take us to get to the actual pilgrimage, like specific point?
Well, this is the Shrine of Amymone. This is where Hercules supposedly came to this cave and shot fire arrows into this cave. And by doing so, goaded the Hydra into coming out and battling him. This is where that happened. So
why don't we go in the cave, see if the priestess is in there. I mean, she may just be sitting in there with a broken leg or something 100 feet away, and then come out and follow the tracks.
That's also a good point. Sounds like a plan.
And you said there's a basin up 30 feet up in the hillside?
Yeah. To the right of the cave mouth, 30 feet to the right of the cave mouth, 30 feet up, there's a 5 foot wide, maybe 8 foot tall aperture in the stone of the rock, in the rock face. And then at the forefront of that is what looks like a stone socket, stone tripod, and it has what looks like a colander, a big bronze 5 foot wide colander set in it. And then you can see beyond it into a cave with bas-reliefs of women carved onto the walls. You can see all that clearly from where you are right now. And are we able to zoom up a little, Brenda, so they can look to the right and see that, or no? It's over to, is that Vafea up by the bush there? It's over to the right on the side of the hill. And it just isn't showing right now, but it's there. It's just, there we go.
Okay.
So you see the little round thing? That little circular thing? Yeah. That's the basin.
Okay.
And that's 30 feet above the level you're on right now. That's set up in the hill.
And this flask, how far does the water shoot out of that?
How far does the water shoot out of the flask? Quite a distance. I think I wrote that up and gave it to the party, but don't worry, I'll just look it up for you right now. Why do you ask?
Well, it's a colander, right? I mean, it looks like something you put a sacrificial offering in.
Yeah.
For example, water from a holy flask.
Sure. But you had heard that there's a way to get to it from within. So
okay. Did not know that.
Kind of spray it from here, but it might look a little flip. This conforms to the characteristics. We call it a flask of Amymone. It is basically the decanter of endless water out of the Dungeon Master's Guide. It can produce a stream of water, that produces a gallon of water. It can do a fountain that produces 5 gallons of water, or it can do a geyser that produces 30 gallons of water that gushes forth in a geyser 30 feet long and 1 foot wide. It's 30 feet over, 30 feet up. If you spray from here, it probably just falls a little short.
Okay, I was just wondering. I didn't realize there's a way to that from inside. So.
Well, it's probably guarded by a hydra or a crocodile or something, but theoretically, yes.
Okay. All right.
And these are 5 foot wide squares. Who's Brenda? Who's that? Is that Abdros?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Is this is me, right?
He's got his little fists. What's that?
Is the one with the tail the satyr?
Yep.
Moving
Do
up.
satyrs have tails?
Tail. Horns.
They have tiny little tails. They
Oh.
have tiny little goatee tails.
So goat men have tiny little goat tails. Do
They
dog
have
men
goat-
have what? What, Amanda?
They have goat legs, so of course they have goat tails. They are goat from the waist down.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why it's got long tail. That's weird. Goats don't have long tails.
That may
It's a
not
little
be his
weird.
tail.
They
He is
don't.
a satyr.
Oh dear.
Ugh.
Ugh.
Yikes. Very yikes.
Well, whatever the case, it will work for our purposes. We don't need to stat anything other than what we already have. Okay, so
Would
there's
that be
our
a
party.
defect? I mean, that's
That would be a defect. Yeah. As a matter of fact, Brenda ran us through a scenario where the characters ended up with that particular defect and had to cope with it during an encounter.
unfortunate.
It happened.
It was unsavory.
It was a very disturbing encounter.
Unsavory and hilarious all at the same time. Okay, well, what is your party going to do then? Is everyone able to move their own figure, Brenda?
What?
Is everyone able to move their own figures?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well then, we're not really in tactical time. There's no light source inside this area. You're going to get a certain amount of ambient illumination for maybe 30 or 40 feet in. So it's not going to be pitch black. You're not walking into pitch black. It's just going to be dim unless you produce some kind of a light source.
I can't actually move my character. I all I can see is the screen share. I'm still not able to use Roll20.
Oh, that's a good Amazon token.
You're in it. You have the Amazon token control.
Maybe you're trying to move the wrong one.
Yeah.
You're the little purple one at the lower right-hand side of the screen.
Yeah.
Yep. But I'm all I've got is the okay. So I should be able to do something with it from Zoom.
Oh,
No,
over
from
in the
Roll20.
screen.
You got to go into Roll20.
In Roll20, I am still not seeing the screen. I have a fragment
So
Oh,
of.
it's just giving you black.
What browser
that's
are you using?
I'm using the one that comes with Windows 10 Edge.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, that's probably it. You pretty much need
Okay,
Chrome.
well, we'll just move your figure for you, just so as to not hold things up.
With the others,
And
yeah,
just
be up with the others.
yeah, just tell Brenda where you want it to be, and who's then that at the rear of the party. I assume that's Eumaeus. And Eumaeus,
Yeah.
Dad, are you able to move Eumaeus? And you're muted. Are you in Roll20, Dad? If you're in Roll20, see if you can move Eumaeus.
Yeah, it says Roll20 editor. I don't know. I'm sort of.
Oh, hang on. I got it now.
Oh, you got it, Penny?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
I
might
think-
need to click there's a little arrow at the top left of the screen. Click that, and that should then allow you to select your figure.
Ah. Try that, Dad.
Which
Ah,
one's
there
my
we go.
One of the bottom ones, the
That one.
one with the shield, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. I click the arrow. Yeah, something's not working here. Something is not working here.
Yeah, well, we're sorting this out. This is
Did you
not
click
going
on the link that I posted to Zoom?
I
You
got,
should see a figure with a shield at the bottom of the map.
yeah, I do,
Okay.
but I can't. But it says I'm viewing Brenda Cass's screen.
No, you need to be looking at your browser, not at Zoom.
Yeah, go to Roll20. Don't just look at the map that Brenda's sharing. We're sharing that just for viewers. You've got to go into Roll20 so you can actually control your figure.
So when I go into Roll20, it's app.roll20.net/editor.
Yeah.
I think I'm in Hackathon, but I don't see that same map.
Try zooming out a little bit, like that plus minus at the top right. Move it all the way down.
Okay.
I had to pan before it was, for some reason or other, it was showing me a tiny corner of the space. And so I had to pick
Try adjusting your perspective.
Now I see the characters at the bottom. I'm down, zoom down to 10%. I mean, I see, I guess, the logos for the different players. Then all I have is a black spot. And I am in Chrome. So,
Okay, we'll keep things moving along. Brenda, do you mind moving his figure for him? Or give me control over it, and I can do it if you want me to.
No, you know, for the Hackathon Roll20, I just have a black square, which I can make bigger or smaller.
You know, sometimes stuff like that happens when I'm using this. Maybe log out and log back in, out of Roll20, log back in. Sometimes that resets it.
Okay.
All right,
But
well,
anyway.
while he's doing that, we'll assume his character is checking his equipment or something like that. Why don't we have the characters who can move their figures tell me what they want to do, if anything?
Well, I will move up a bit.
Okay.
I mean, there's no reason not to, so.
No, we're not in
to-
tactical time.
I'll move up to here and look around. I assume it's still light enough to see. If
yeah,
not,
like I said, it's just going to be fairly dim because you're just getting outdoor light.
if I need to, I'll pull a torch out. I have those. So.
we still have those glowy apples.
Oh yeah.
We do.
You do have the glowing apples, the apples of the Hesperides. So
And
yeah.
I have the one that Nephia gave me. So yeah, I'll pull that out.
And I'm trying to scooch my perspective up so I can actually see further in the cave myself.
I feel like that's a slightly less dignified application of those glowing apples than
Well, they
was
glow.
necessarily intended.
I mean, they're probably not.
I would like to use it as a flashlight.
Hey,
I would like to use this magical apple
the first
to
time
see
I heard
where
that
I am going.
first time I heard that you could use a phone to play a game, I was like, why in the hell would you use a phone to play a game? That's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. And yet you can. So people might just assume glowing apples can be used for those things in your world.
Magical.
Nephia, you're an expert. Could you weave me some sort of semi-transparent net that I could string between my horns to put the apple in?
Yes, I probably could.
That seems like it would be very convenient.
Well, you do have like a handkerchief from your Lion of Namibia. You could Go ahead, make a craft check to see if you can make a nice little sling
I
for his
can
apple.
Just make a little sling.
Are you gonna loan him your hanky?
She can use the 2 pink ribbons
Sure,
I
I
have
need
too
this-
from that arena.
Oh, that's right. You've got your pink ribbons. I could do that.
Okay, let's see if you can. Let's just see how awful this looks, Vafea. Just go ahead
Sure.
and make an intelligence or a wisdom check at advantage.
Ooh, I'm gonna need that advantage. Wow, that wasn't much better. I got a grand total of 9.
All right.
This
Well,
is a hot mess.
you managed to tie off the apple, and it's tied to each of his horns, but it slides a little bit down on one, so the apple's sort of hanging down and bonking him on one of his eyebrows. But you do have this glowing apple now distractingly hanging down over your forehead, Chaz. And it's
You look
illuminating
like
the
an
area.
anglerfish.
The apple is not impeded in any way. It just is now really unartfully tied to your head. And what you're seeing is this. It's cool and damp in here. It's dark. The floor is sort of mud-coated rock. You could see that it's natural rock, but a lot of mud has just gotten trampled in here by pilgrims. It's not a huge area. The walls are unadorned in any way. They're just damp, dripping cave walls. Probably the ceiling's 15 feet high, so fairly high for a house, but not necessarily very high for a cave. And you can see that there is, in fact, a spring, that there is water. The water extends back in the cave beyond the vision of your light. You could see that the cave actually to the north bears to the right a little bit. So there's cave there that you can't see, but there's no way you can walk there. It's all water. And without having anyone make perception checks, you could tell there's just enough ripple in the water that you can tell that this isn't just drainage. This isn't just runoff. There is actually a bit of spring churning beneath this. And you saw that there was water down at the base of the hill, sort of trickling out through fissures. So presumably the reason this Springfield area doesn't overflow is because the water is draining down through fissures in the rock and thenceforth out into in the swamp. But you're looking at a pool, which, as you can see, extends to the north and east, and you can almost see to the end of the cave. You sense that probably you're just about seeing to the end of the cave. And then to the right, where it curves off to the right, you can see a narrow set of worn and slippery looking stairs leading up to the right, up toward the direction of where that little basin is. And then finally, there are a couple of crockery pots and a bucket laying on the ground, just tipped over near the edge of the water. So an amphora, nothing special looking. All the images on it are just sort of worn. It's looked like it's been touched by thousands of hands. One of the handles is cracked off. But an amphora, a bucket, and a big cup are all just laying on the ground next to the side of the water. Okay? So stairway leading up, cave leading off to the northeast, a spring, and some containers dumped on the ground by the side of the spring. And everyone can see all of this more or less, except Eumaeus. Eumaeus, did you want to enter the cave, or you? Oh, he's not even here.
Yeah, we lost him.
He's on roll 20 now. I think he wound up rebooting his whole computer as opposed to just roll 20. But...
Ah, gotcha. Okay. Well, we'll assume that he is standing guard outside at the moment.
Okay. So I'm going to, spend a few extra seconds, i.e. a perception check, looking closely at the pool just to make sure there's no crocodiles living
Smart.
inside of it.
Well, that's good, and some of your other party members might be able to do things that might help also in determining that. And you did see some ripple. You assumed it was because it's spring fed. So yeah, let's start with a perception check, Chaz.
Okay. Let's see. 20.
And everybody else can think about what they want to do. And we're not in tactical time. Nothing's
Ooh.
killing you just yet. So
Yeah, so that was, I'm using the chat bar in roll 20. It was a crit, so I got a 25 total.
okay. Well, you are using the apples of the Hesperides for light. You are fairly confident from holding the apple a certain way and angling it, that even though it's dark in here and even though you get some reflection off of the surface of the water, it's clear. It's not muddy water. It's not tainted. It appears to be pure spring-fed water. And you can tell that in the area of water that you're able to see that there's nothing living in there. It doesn't appear to be tainted with any vegetation. There's no algae. There's certainly no crocodile. There's no fish. It is just a spring-fed pool of fresh water. It looks like it's probably right in front of you, maybe 5 feet deep. It probably extends to as much as 10 feet deep. So it's between 5 and 10 feet deep. So if you go in that water, you plunge right down into sort of a rock pool. So it's you can't wade into it.
Okay.
It's water, but it looks pure and clear and uninhabited by anything.
Okay, well, I'll take a little drink of it and then fill a bucket and carry that along to wherever we're going.
Okay.
Like, are these stairs?
Yes, that is correct. Those are stairs leading upward, and you can postulate that they lead up to the area where that basin is.
What's the deal with the amphora and the cups? Is there some legend that goes with this water that I, as a foreigner, wouldn't
Well,
know
there's a
about?
legend, and I will briefly tell you the legend. Some of your characters with their religion checks knew the legend before. You'd heard the legend at the Asclepion. If you'd asked about it, you could have heard about it. The legend in brief is that there were 50 sisters, princesses, 50 princesses from the royal house of Libya, many, 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 many centuries before. And they were betrothed against their will to 50 princes of Egypt. So these 50 Libyan princesses were going to be forcibly married off to these 50 Egyptian princes and did not want to be. So these 50 princesses and their father fled Libya and made their way to the Peloponnese. They made landfall about where the town of Nafplion, near Tiryns, is just 12 miles away. They were pursued, however, by the king of Egypt and by the 50 Egyptian princes. And once they were caught, they were forced to marry these princes that they loathed and didn't want to marry for whatever reasons. Well, the princesses had made a pact. And on their wedding nights, after swearing marital oaths in good faith, on their wedding nights, they all proceeded to slay their husbands in their marital beds. So poison them, stab them. I don't know, one of them might have set one on fire. Who the hell knows? But 49 of these princesses slew their husbands out of indignation and as part of this murder pact that they had made. The 50th, Amymone, did not do that. She decided it was too vile a thing to do. So the 50th sister, Amymone, did not slay her husband. These princesses were now strangers in a strange land. They did eventually all marry. They all married local Achaean men, men from cities like Mycenae, and they all lived in this area. And, you know, they all Some of them had long lives, some of them had less long lives, whatever. But they all married and lived here. But when they died, they were all condemned to Tartarus for having committed this crime that they never repented of or made good on. Amymone outlived her husband, and because she was so honorable, Poseidon ended up taking her as a wife or a consort or whatever. So she ended up upgrading after her husband died and being married to Poseidon. And she gained all sorts of powers over the element of water, and she created this spring which once fed this lush and populated valley and provided for the farms there before, you know, the disaster of 100 years before, when it became flooded and turned into a fetid swamp. So this is the spring of Amymone, named for this righteous princess, and eventually co-opted by a hydra that many centuries after that, Hercules came and slew. The 49 princesses who went to Tartarus were condemned to forever fill a cistern with holes in it. So forever in Tartarus, they have to go to the banks of a river and they have to pour water into this cistern, and the water immediately flows out. So these 49 women are continuously and forever, for their crimes, forced to pour water into this cistern, and their labors are immediately undone. So the determination your party came to before is that some people, as a votive act, will come here, take water from the spring of Amymone, and in her name give some respite to her sisters. Pour some water into this cistern, and the idea, there could be any ideas behind it. You have to tell me what you want the idea to be. But the idea is that you're taking water and you're pouring it into the cistern. You're experiencing some of the suffering that they've experienced, or you're pouring some water in so they get a couple of minutes of break from their eternal torment, or you're contemplating what an eternal torment might be for you if you don't mend your ways, whatever. The act is going to be different for everybody, and some people are not going to perform the act. Some people aren't going to pour water in, or some people are going to do something completely different. But these containers are scattered here because some pilgrims come and they don't have their own container, and they fill up a jug, and maybe without even contemplating too much what they're doing, they tramp their way up the stairs to the little chamber that's up there, and they pour the water into the cistern and it drains out. But only you can tell me what you're going to do and the extent to which you're going to do it and what your intent is when you do it. Okay?
Okay.
And I think Chaz said that he picked up the old wooden, slightly leaky bucket and dipped it into the water and pulled out a bucket full of water. So you're standing there with your bucket full of water, Chaz. I think you said you were headed up the stairs?
Yeah, so I'll head up the stairs and perform the votive act. I mean, I'm a druid, so I'll, say a little druid blessing with my respects more to Amymone than anything else. That's kind of my focus, I guess,
Okay.
on the, divine part.
Okay. That sounds good. So why don't you just move your figures up to the little chamber up there then?
Right, because I haven't done this before. Presumably, most of the rest of the party
Well,
has.
technically, nobody did because the area was much less developed when they came here before. And then I realized, okay, we can do a little more with this. So we are being a little meta with that. Technically, the other characters were here, but we'll say that they didn't understand the story until they got to the Asclepius that night. So it's all new to them as well. Let's just say that. So it's new to everybody.
Am I in the right spot up there?
Yeah, you're at the right spot. You're standing in a little semicircular room. So let me describe that real quick, and I'll get to you, Dianara. Sorry. You're standing in a little semicircular room, and below you, at your feet, is this bronze cistern. So you'll just pour your water straight down into this cistern. It's sort of in a stone socket, and your expectation would be that when you pour the water into the cistern, it's just going to go shooting out through the holes of the colander, it's bronze and green with age, and trickle down the side of the hill down into the swamp. So you mentioned that you were sort of contemplating what you're doing and doing this sort of in the name of Amymone and as a nature priest. So that's all great. And you pour your water in. It splashes out of the bucket and it hits and sort of splashes and swirls around into the cistern, and it drains out within seconds. And if anything comes of that, we'll discuss it later because I want to know what everyone else is doing. What were you saying, Dianara?
Oh, I'm going to grab a container and follow up the stairs.
Okay, well, there's an amphora with one handle broken off laying there. You grab it and fill it full of water, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. You come up the stairs with an amphora full of water. And you can move your figure up there if you want. You're up there with Chaz now. Now, the other thing to note in this room is that in, say, 3 bands at ground level, well, no, they would all be above ground level because they want you to be able to see them from below, looking up. So from about 3 feet high, there are a couple of bands of bas-reliefs, and they're bas-reliefs of women. They're maybe 2 feet tall each. They're semi-round, which is to say they're attached to the wall. You can't reach your hand completely around them. They're all dressed similarly, so in Egyptian style, or what whoever sculpted it would think Egyptian style would be. And there are, I don't know, if anyone wants to actually count, you can let me know, but your sense is that there's probably about 4 dozen of them, 49 or 50 of them. And one of the niches is empty. And you might presume, without making a bunch of religion checks, that that is where Amymone herself would be, but she's not present because she is the righteous sister. She's presumably present in the water below, et cetera, et cetera. And Chaz, you pick up that these 49 sculptures of women, they're not in the same style as the 49 little women on the glass bottle, but it's clearly the same motif. Here you're standing in a round room with the women around you. The bottle, of course, is round with the women on the outside of it, but it's the same idea, that it's dedicated to the idea of the ordeal of these 49 women and the one good sister who escaped their fate. So there is a thematic similarity between the sculptures and the bottle that Vafea is carrying. Okay?
Would that bottle fit up in the niche?
Oh, the bottle would easily fit in the niche. It doesn't look like it was made for the niche. The bottle's like, as big as like, a pint milk container. The niche is big enough to hold a 2-foot tall statue. The bottle doesn't look as if it's made for the niche, but it would fit. Yeah, absolutely. So, Dianara, what are you doing?
I am going to move past Abdios, I guess, and I'm going to pour my water into the colander.
Okay. Do you have any specific motive or sentiments that I need to know about?
Feeling sorry for these women that are stuck doing this endless chore.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's probably appropriate. Abdros, what are you up to in the midst of all this?
Watching.
Okay. That is the thing that you do. So you're just sort of monitoring what everyone else is doing. That's good. What about you, Vafea?
There was another vessel I could use to get water from the pool.
There
right?
was, and you presumably have a water skin of your own. But yeah, there's
right.
There's a what did I say? A big cup laying on the side there.
Okay, I thought so. I just couldn't remember.
Yep.
Yeah. So I use the big cup and scoop up some water and come up and pour it in the colander as well.
Okay.
Watch it slosh through and think about how that seems like kind of I can see how frustrating that would be to have to do that forever.
Well, sure. It presumably would be, and and once you contemplate it in those terms, yeah, you've walked up the stairs once and dumped the water in once, you've kind of experienced what one of the 49 sisters would experience for 2 minutes of her eternity. On the other hand, there are another 48 who are experiencing the same thing for that same period of time, again and again and again and again and again forever. So yeah.
So if we want to give them a longer break, could we set up this bottle to discharge some water for a little while?
Well, you know how to activate the bottle. You all do.
So I suggest we do that.
Okay. Well, who's going to do what?
So you're suggesting that we use the bottle that we have, the bottle of Amymone, to just kind of like continually pour water into
just kind of lay it on the
colander
side
for a little while?
Right, yeah. That's what I suggest. Just to see what
Can we
happens.
make it
I mean,
bigger?
it just does
Go
seem
for it.
like a coincidence. But
Go for it. You've
Has
got
the
the
same
bottle.
Can you make what bigger, Abdros?
The bottle.
Oh, I don't know.
Can you make the bottle bigger?
A wizard could make it bigger. I don't know if
I mean, if somebody
Chaz
had like a
can make it
spell,
bigger.
if somebody had a spell like, you know, like enlarge or something like that. They
Right,
could-
that's what I'm asking.
Oh. Does anyone have the spell enlarge?
I don't.
I do not. I could make it look bigger. I have silent image, but I'm
But
not sure how helpful.
I mean, if this is votive, isn't making it look bigger good enough?
Well,
Sure, I'll
that's
make
an
the bottle
interesting
look
point.
bigger.
well, no, I mean, it's funny you asked that, Abdros. Just apropos of nothing. You guys did find a scroll when you fought the Boar of Aramanthos, that bandit. You did find a scroll in his lair that had the second level spell reduce/enlarge or enlarge/reduce on it. You do have a scroll. You just apparently didn't keep track of it on a group treasure sheet. I
Yeah,
know.
here it is. Scroll of enlarge and yeah.
Yeah, you've got that. So funny, you must be channeling something, Brenda. That is absolutely correct.
Let's biggerize it, says Abderos.
That is an interesting idea.
How big are we trying to make it, or do we not
As
have any
bigger as
control
it
over
fit
that?
as is possible.
Oh, I didn't see this coming.
Right?
Now we just need to work the dung beetle into it.
Right. There's no dung here. Okay, well, talk me through what you're going to do. Who's doing what? Who's getting out the scroll? Who's casting the spell? Who's holding the bottle? Which setting you're putting the bottle on? I mean, you can have it so it pours out 1 gallon. You can have it so it pours out 5 gallons. You can have it so that it does a geyser and does 30 gallons per round. You know all this. Tell me what you're doing.
If it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing.
Brenda,
Okay, well
can
I'm
only
weak,
agree with
so
you.
I propose I don't hold it. I can,
Abderos will hold anything if that's required.
and I'll cast like a prestidigitation effect on it to make it glow and look sacred.
Okay. I suggest
why
that
not?
right. I suggest that Abdros and Dianara hold it, since they're probably some of the stronger members of our party.
All 11 strength, you know it.
Okay. Well, the bottle
Well-
isn't enlarged yet. It's just a little 1 pint
Right.
sized bottle.
No, once it's enlarged. So
Okay.
I'm going to put my glowing apple somewhere where it casts a light over the room.
Yeah.
You can put it up in that empty niche where the statue of Amymone would go if she'd been treacherous.
Sure, that's what I'll do.
So the room is perfectly illuminated. The bottle is held by Abdros at the moment. It's now glowing, sparkling in a sacred way. What, Vafea?
I was gonna say, go ahead and enact the scroll.
You're going to cast the spell, Vafea?
I guess. I'm not sure what that entails other than
That involves
reading off the scroll.
It involves pulling out. It involves you assertively telling me that you're the one taking that scroll and opening it up and reading the arcane sigils on it and casting the spell upon the bottle.
I shall do that.
What if there were repercussions? I mean, what
What
if
if
I had
there were?
notes?
But you know what? We're doing it, and I'm reading the scroll, and now the bottle is bigger. Presumably, it works.
Is that you've become one of the sisters in Tartarus, and one of them has become free. Taking their place.
I'm already cursed. It can't really get much worse.
I can't get much worse. Okay, well, you cast your spell, and when you do, the bottle increases in size in all dimensions. It doubles in size in all dimensions. So its weight and its volume are actually considerably more. Probably it now weighs, what would it have weighed before? A couple pounds. Probably weighs about 16 pounds now. So it's actually fairly heavy and unwieldy. It's still closed, but it's now a big, heavy bottle that's probably about a foot long and 6 inches wide, and is still stoppered. And my understanding was that Abderos and Dianara were both going to sort of hold it to try to control it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. You're holding it, and you're pointing it toward the basin.
I wonder if I can find a bottle.
If you can what?
Find a bottle in the Roll20 assets.
Oh, I don't know. If you do, I know you're going to make it absurdly large.
Go big or go home.
That's it, man. All right. So this.
Oh, it's not loading the thing for me for some reason. Or, oh, I know why.
Here, you look. I'm going to see how long this spell lasts. Concentration, up to a minute. So you've cast the spell, and you know if you concentrate on it, Amanda, it'll last 60 seconds.
Okay.
And this is not counting against the time of the bottle, of the duration.
This looks like
yeah,
I
that'll
like
work.
that. That's good.
Yeah, I think that works. It is now full. It is now a character.
And it's enormous.
All right.
an image on the bottle.
The other thing that occurs to me is, what if we plug the holes? But let's, is the objective to free these women from hell?
Well, I don't know. You probably all each have your own objectives. You told me what your various respective sentiments were when you poured your little individual bits of water in. Now Dianara
Andros is here for the spectacle.
I'm not going to mess with the colander.
Who is
Not
unstoppable?
my religion.
I'll do it. I'm not doing anything else anyway except making it glow, so I'll pull the stopper off.
Okay. You pull the stopper off, and what setting do you want it to be? Do you want it to be stream, where 1 gallon per round would normally come out, or the one where 5 gallons per round would normally come out, or the one where 30 gallons per round would normally come
30.
Go big or go home. 30.
Yeah, do 30.
out? You pop it off the lid, and you activate it so that a full geyser will come gushing out of this thing. And normally 30 gallons of water would have rushed out every 6 seconds. But this thing is much, much, much bigger. And it isn't doubled. It's doubled in its linear dimensions. You've now got 240 gallons of water gushing out of this thing every 6 seconds. And it explodes into the basin. And you just see it hit the basin and spatter upward. And then it starts to swirl and fill. And you see water now not trickling out of the little holes, but shooting out of them in every direction. You see them shooting 15 feet out of the little spaghetti strainer holes out of the side of the hill. And within a few seconds, and it's good both of you are holding it and you're both strong, you're both able. We're not going to mess with a bunch of the strength checks, but it's fighting this bottle, and the two of you are clutching it, and the basin within a few seconds overflows. This is probably the first time this basin has ever actually overflowed. And water spatters over the top and flows over the edge, down across the holes and down the side of the hill. And really, so much water is going into this thing, which can't contain it and can't expel it anymore through its holes, that now water begins to slop up around your ankles. And before long, there's 6 inches of water filling the floor of the entire little semicircular room that you're in. Water is now trickling back down the stairs toward the spring. Is there any reason, Vafea, that we want to consider that are you going to cut this off before a minute?
I think so. Yes, I think that's quite enough. Quite enough chaos we've caused here.
No, keep it going.
What? No, we're a menace. We need to turn this off.
It's only 2,500. It's only 2,500 gallons. That's not even enough to fill a swimming pool.
It's right.
No, I think rolling up the scroll. I think that's enough of that.
Well, no, the scroll just crumbles. It's not. Once you cast the spell, it's
gone.
So
we can't
you're
waste
going to cast this spell, and you're going to snip it after how long, Amanda?
What? I don't know.
You can keep it going up to 1 minute, Amanda.
I don't want to keep it going up to 1 minute because then we're all
going to be should have cast the damn spell. I am so upset.
What?
I'm very upset that you want to turn this off.
Well,
don't stop.
This is holy flow right now.
It's going everywhere. We're going to ruin this place.
We're fixing it.
How are we fixing it? There's water up to our ankles right now.
This is what it's meant for, okay?
We need to get it up to the niches.
Wait, what level are those on?
Oh, it's not really going to go that high. The water's flow. The water isn't getting deeper and deeper. It's flowing out down the stairway. It's flowing out the front of the shrine. It's not going to go up to your waist. It's slopping around your ankles because it's flying in every direction. It's not going to get deeper than that.
We should have fixed it so that it would actually go up to the niches.
Okay, it's a little too late for that now.
Instead of turning off the spell, you could be problem solving.
I just need to know.
It's been about 60 seconds, so, after all this.
You can tell that Vafea is wavering in her resolve. So I just need to know, things are going to, you all know, things are going to happen as a result of your actions here. And I'm going to tell you what those things are pretty soon after this stops flowing for 1 round, or 2 rounds, or 3 rounds, or 4 rounds, all the way up to 10 rounds.
I think once we've got water around our ankles, I think that I'm in agreement that I think that it's time.
The gods will not be pleased if we back out now when we had the means to go on further.
But
that just demonstrates a lack of resolve.
Either that or it'll make the guards slap it down because that's what they do.
No. I want to point out very specifically a time when we chose as a group, except for me, that we were going to walk away from an encounter and not get these fancy glowing apples.
Oh, I remember that. People actually attacked Abderos.
I think a lack of backbone is the greatest weakness that this party has, and I won't stand for it.
Well, I don't actually have ankles, so.
Well, and I'm not.
So I think you should let it flow until it reaches my ankles.
This has to be a party decision. I am going to go do something real quick. I need a decision on what you're going to do when you get back. Check your messaging real quick, Brenda.
All right. So my vote is to let it go, and I'm gonna
Thank you,
I'll be back.
Paul.
Yeah. Well, I'm chaotic neutral.
You're my kind of
What else
people.
would I do? All right. I'll be back in a minute or two.
Taking a break.
Ruining this place. Are you kidding me?
Are we taking a break?
It's a cave.
But it's a holy site cave.
It's a cave.
There's a rather good-sized spider that just keeps crawling over my other monitor. So if you see me making horrified faces here, it's because I'm just watching him crawl back and forth and be like, please go away.
You see, if you had a giant bottle with 30 gallons of water coming out of it, that would
It could
be no
destroy my
problem.
computer. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Strictly speaking, not my pantheon. Do what you like.
That's right. Why are you concerned about the condition of this cave? Just let it be a bit damper. It's no big deal.
Hercules was kind of a jerk, so.
You know, he was.
But this actually has nothing to do with her.
But this has nothing to do with Hercules. This
At
has
all.
to do with some women who were being tortured for eternity. And, you know, the more water we can put into this basin, the better.
Yeah, this all predates Hercules by centuries.
Fair enough.
No, that's not me telling you what you should or shouldn't do. Because maybe this is one of those times where Abderos is overreaching. And but Abderos certainly doesn't think so.
Abderos doesn't overreach.
Right.
What's the cliche? Abderos shoots for the stars so at least he can reach the moon.
Which is ruled by a Titaness.
Even though from a rocket science perspective, if you aim for the stars, you're probably just going out into the middle of nothingness and dying. But hey.
What did I just come
But
up with?
rocket scientists and motivational poster makers are not the same people.
They're not the same people, as it turns out.
All right. I need to know what's going on with your party. I'm feeling, I don't know. On the one hand, maybe a lack of resolve. On the other hand, maybe a bit of hubris and impiety. It's not for me to say until after I know what you do. Then it's for me to say. And I will be saying it directly. But in the meantime, I need to, Eumaeus is out taking a nap, presumably. So Eumaeus is eating rations and sharpening his javelins and not part of this scene. But two, you're holding this thing. One of you is saying, I think I'm going to turn it off. A couple of people are yelling, no, 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 no. And that won't actually turn off the water. That will just reduce the flask back down to its normal size. The person controlling the flow of the flask, which I'm guessing is Abderos, is going to be the one that can either turn it on or turn it off. But the person who can keep it going at this bizarre 8 times normal rate is Amanda, Vafea, Dyer. So,
Althea, you do what you think is right.
Maximum flow, please.
You're the only one telling me that. The other two are beating up on me to keep it going.
Maximum flow, please.
I'm not beating up on you.
There, you don't report to them.
How often does this happen? Come on. You have to see what happens.
It's a cave.
It's a holy site.
It's a cave. What do you think happens when it rains? This place gets wet. It's not a big deal. It's stone.
This isn't rain. This is way worse than rain.
The gods will judge us harshly for this decision,
I'm
Amanda.
gonna say that we argue about this for about 30 seconds and then I cut the spell off.
Well, after
So you got 30 seconds, 5 rounds of this torrential, crazy gushing of an absurd amount of water.
Mike, how do I Sparta kick her off the ledge?
we are Amymone. Well, you.
So that's enough water to fill a Suburban.
All right. You all have participated in a ritual that we'll say has transcended what you did with your individual buckets or flasks of water, because this went above and beyond. Well, you should ask the question, Paul, how often does this happen? It's probably never happened. This flask, which is dedicated to the idea behind this shrine, wasn't created by the same people. It wasn't created at the same time. The odds that it was ever here is nil. The odds that if it was here, somebody would have had the ability to enlarge it is nil, or that they would have. You can be certain this has never happened before. And it halfway happened this time. You wanted to see what would happen if you poured as much water into this thing as you could, and you did what you would consider to be precisely half of that. So, all things in moderation, this may have in fact been exactly the right decision. Maybe going to the full extent that you could have would have indeed displeased the gods. So
I was prepared to fight the water elemental that came at us after.
you are unable, while this is happening, to process all of your emotions, because this is a religious ritual and you do all go into somewhat of a state of exaltation. So you are able to process them a bit once all the chaos, as Fafea said, dials back a bit. So after 30 seconds, the flask shrinks down back to its normal size. Now there is still 30 gallons of water coming out, which when you battle the excremental a month before, seemed like a lot of water coming out. And now it just really seems just kind of like a spray. It doesn't really feel like much at all. And as this 30 gallons of water sprays into the basin, the water around your ankles drains away. And then the water that's lapping over the top of the basin stops lapping over the top of the basin. And then you can see the water actually draining out of the colander. And within about a minute, all the water has drained out of the colander. You're still spraying this in, Abdros, to the greatest extent that you can, but it can't fill it anymore, of course. It has done all that it's going to do with that. And eventually, you sense that you've done all that you can. And you kind of feel right on the cusp of this thing being at its high point. You know, you can realize that you felt this sense of spiritual exaltation coming from some other source. And then you can almost hear a sigh of disappointment. And then a minute later, as the water all drains out and doesn't catch in the basin anymore, you can hear a groan of despair. You feel it on some spiritual plane, as if some 49 tormented souls for 30 seconds had their eternal torment taken away from them in such a way that they felt completely freed from it for 30 seconds, not for 60 seconds. And then the water drains out, and you realize, Abdros, you might as well turn it off. You know that this is done. You've done what you can do.
I look away from Vafea in disgust.
So we just need to find 7 more of these flasks, and
What?
I'll check with my connection.
Or just let's have everybody make a wisdom check. And if you have religion, you can make it with proficiency. And you know what? Hold on. Don't make your checks yet. Let's just keep it simple. Let's make a religion check or a wisdom check. If you have religion, you can add your +2 for your proficiency. But let's make this an advantage because you all participated in something that was really a big deal.
So what is this, a wisdom check?
It's a wisdom check. And do you have religion, Chaz?
No.
No.
Got
20.
Natural 20.
You got a natural 20, Vafea?
I did. So with wisdom, that's +3, and then you said with so +4 altogether.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty good. What about you, Abderos? You got a 20 total?
20, yes.
Okay. What did you get, Chaz?
17.
17?
Yep.
Okay. And Penny, what did Dianera get?
9.
God, Dianera rolls the worst of anybody that I know. Okay, well, we'll start with Dianera. Dianera, what did you say before? You've said it many times. You maybe set the tone for this. It's not my religion. So you have participated in a thing that is sort of foreign and odd to you. Certainly the idea that anyone would be punished for killing a husband that they were forced to marry would be alien to an Amazon. You would have just killed him as a matter of course, and the idea that you would have been punished is completely out of line. So you get 9 experience points. So make a note of that. You get 9 experience points for having participated in this. Chaz, you rolled a 17?
Yes.
Okay. You get 17 experience points.
Okay.
And you're going to gain the ability, you're going to get a bonus spell slot. You're already a spellcaster. This might not end up being a big deal for you, but maybe we'll write it in a way that makes it a bigger deal. You're going to get the ability to use the spell Create or Destroy Water, but you already have that spell, I think, right?
Yeah, it's on my druid list.
Yeah, so
maybe I could add it to my bard list? Because then it's always memorized? Or whatever you were going to suggest. So.
Yeah, no, I was just, it was just a temporary power.
Oh, okay.
But it's not a great power up. Let me think about how I want to handle this, because that isn't a great power up, and I want it to be something better. But let's just consider that you got some kind of, the smallest kind of magical power up you can get from this, and I still need to sort out what it is, because that doesn't feel satisfactory to me. Okay?
Okay.
We'll sort that out. Penny doesn't get anything of that sort. Adros, you got a 20. So
Yes.
you are going to get the ability to cast some second level water spell. So we'll determine what that is. You don't even have to know what it is right now, but some spell that has water as a component or an element that is second level, you're going to be able to cast, okay? Because you participated in this and you now have just a better understanding of these things. So it's like a boon. You're getting like this small boon, just like you got the ability to cast some divination spells as a result of visiting the Cave of the Tables of Knowledge. And something occurs to you, Abdurus, you can really see why you would get like, you know, witches or people of various sorts who would like dwell in an area like this, because they would keep coming back and trying to get effects like this again and again and again. They'd even get like some bastard magical ability just from coming and tapping into things like this. So you'll use this, it'll be gone. If you ever come back, you can try to get it again, but you can really see how the allure would be for people to try to do this. Fafea, you get the greatest, oh, and you get 20 XP. So make a note of that. Fafea, you get the greatest, and I would expect, but I can't tell you what your character has to feel, I would expect the most bittersweet revelations from all this.
Oh, no.
You have a full-blown epiphany as a
geez.
result of experiencing this. You thought you got a total of 24, you said?
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, you get 44 experience points. So you have actually palpably gotten insights from this. You have become improved and more knowledgeable as a person as a result of participating in this. And you have reason to believe, you can tell me that you reject this belief, that's fine, but you have reason to believe that you really did participate in relieving the pains of some 49 women who might have been harshly judged. You have acted on behalf of their sister. You've acted as an agent of Amymone and relieved the suffering of 49 women who are condemned to suffer for eternity for something that debatably they shouldn't be suffering for eternity for. But you know that you could have relieved their suffering for longer. And
Told you.
And blinked. You blinked. And
Because we're worried about a cave.
Did not see through. You can tell the cave is perfectly fine. Cave hasn't been torn up. The cave is just fine. So I would expect there is this is a bittersweet revelation for you as a free action. If you would like to have a salty tear drip down your cheek and plummet into the basin on behalf of the women who you can now you can feel their groans in Tartarus sort of fading away into the ether now. So you realize you did a great thing. You realize
I will have a cinematic tear as a free action.
You stood on the brink of being between a tradeswoman and a hero, and maybe one day you will be a hero. But you realize that the path of heroship leads in one direction, and the path you've chosen leads back to a dyer's shop in Corinth.
Dang.
That's an indictment if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, seriously.
You got more experience points than anybody.
Yeah,
that's a lot of experience points.
And I could go take them back to my stupid shop.
And tell people stories about the great things you almost once did.
And then spray them with water from your water cannon.
But, okay, so Brenda is going to get a second level spell that she can cast at least once, or that her character Abros can cast at least once. But I'll sort that out because I'm still trying to, I want something that feels satisfactory and appropriate. That could have happened as a result just of you just pouring water in. Paul is going to get some kind of lesser magical power-up. Amanda is going to get the very best magical power-up. So you're going to have access to a spell of at least, you got a critical, and you got a total of 24. Yeah, you're going to get at least a third level spell that you're going to be able to cast at least once. And I'll figure out what that is. But then, finally, last thing, you now have 5 rounds. You have the thing going. You have 5 doses, 5 single slugs. You can open up the flask, and there are now the equivalent of 5 potions of water breathing that you can dispense from your flask.
Ooh.
So it's a power up to the flask. So the flask itself, and it's not like the spell where you can divide it 10 ways. That's 1 dose that will last for 24 hours. And you've got 5 of them. So one person can drink one dose, and for 24 hours, they can breathe water and air. And you can do that 5 times because you kept the water flowing into the basin for 5 rounds in this mega enhanced mode that went beyond what the flask normally could have done. So you get 5 potions of water breathing, and you get between the 3 of you a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd level spell power up, which is really like me giving you a scroll. It's just like me giving you a scroll is what it is. So that's the treasure that you're getting for that. And you realize that you've accomplished all that you can here in the shrine itself.
Okay.
I want to see if the water in the thingy at the bottom, the what was that?
Now, what's this?
The bottom.
Yeah, you're going over to the edge of the pool? Okay.
Is it higher?
Oh, I don't know. I guess technically it would be a little higher, right?
Well,
I mean, probably, you know, I don't know.
If it's flowing out there, then maybe, but if this is actually like a standing pool, then it would be higher by some amount.
It's a standing pool, and the reason it doesn't generally overflow is because the amount of water coming out of the spring is sort of equal to the amount that's drifting out, pouring out through fissures lower down on the hill. So with an extra 1,000 gallons having gone down the stairs and spattered into this area, yeah, sure, it would be, you know, a little higher. You can tell that it's a dynamic situation. The water didn't magically disappear. It's now mixed in with the pool. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
If we had a very long hose and we used gravity and suction, we could get it to empty this pool into the pool above.
You know, and when you ask the question, I bet this has never been done before. That would probably be a fairly safe bet as well.
I have gust of wind memorized. That might be useful there.
See, that'll create suction. Now we just have to get a hose.
You know, when you
or we could go follow the footsteps.
When you magically did all this, it upset Amanda enough. If you guys are actually going to start bringing hoses and pumps and blasting,
we're not supposed to be undertaking a civil engineering project in the middle of this sacred site.
That's
Amanda,
true.
we were winning.
We were
Romans. Winning, Amanda.
Winning.
We can beat this.
We're supposed to be looking for a missing doctor, in case you forgot.
Well, I guess.
Oh, I did forget.
I mean, Deianira is kind of standing there, kind of like, all right.
You know
So, hey, Chaz
we
is
still
going.
here?
What?
Chaz is going to go outside. Is there anything unusual about the colander or anything, or is it just wet?
It's just wet. Yeah,
Okay.
you don't see anything unusual about it. Now, as far as you can tell, there's not been any permanent changes wrought here.
Okay.
You know, it's a big bronze colander set in a stone socket. It's meant to have water poured through it. It doesn't usually get a whole gusher through it, but I mean, that's what it's for. It's like using your spaghetti strainer at home. Sometimes you pour too much water and then it overflows, but it doesn't hurt the spaghetti strainer to do it. Probably doesn't hurt your kitchen that much to do it. So
But it does back up in the sink.
it does back up in the sink, and I don't like that because I don't want water that's gone down to the pipe pushing back up into my pasta because that's gross. But there was no pasta. Okay, so the doctor. Yeah, I mean, I guess technically she could be further back in the cave toward the end of it where you can't quite see the back side of it. I guess technically she could be in the water.
Like in the water?
Well, I don't know. There could be a shelf back at the end of the cave. You can't see the very end of it. But maybe I'm just baiting you. Maybe I'm just trying to.
I mean, I'll take the bait. I'll hop in the water.
I mean, maybe I'm wasting your time, and there will be repercussions on the doctor if you piss around here. Maybe something awful turned up in the water now that you poured water from a magical device into it. Ooh, let's find out.
Wow, you're making this sound like such a great idea. I'm still.
but you can do whatever you want.
All right.
What
Well,
are
I'll
you
just go
gonna
up here to keep an eye on, but I'm not participating because I don't swim that well.
Well, what are you?
I don't swim at all. How deep is it?
If you just jump in right here or slide in right here, it's going to be, when you look down into it with your apple, you can see it's at least 5 feet deep, and you could see it slopes down. It's all stone, but it's probably as much as 10 feet deep at the very middle. It probably slopes down to 10 feet deep.
So if I skirt the edge, it's like 5 foot something, yeah?
Yeah, but you're not going to be able to, there's nowhere for you to stand. You're going to have to swim or dog paddle to maneuver through here.
All right, well, I'll do my best.
I could do this, and I don't even swim that well. So, if there's no issues, you should be fine.
All right, I look myself to the water.
You slide into the water, or you dive in?
Yeah.
Which?
I slide into the water.
All right, it's cold. It's
Yeah,
really,
I figured it would be cold.
Yeah, it's cold water. Not unnaturally. It's exactly what you would expect. All right, well, you're in the water, and you're sort of hanging on the edge. What have you got for light source? Or
I'll move
Apple.
up to the edge and
okay.
provide my apple too.
Okay. Well.
Not a torch. It should glow underwater.
What?
I said it's not a torch. It should glow underwater, right?
So you're gonna take the apple and like have it in one hand as you're going through the water. Okay, you can do that.
All right, I'm going to go to the end of it. If that's like, if that's otherwise, I'll roll if I have to.
I don't know. There's not really current here. There's a little ripple because there is water coming from somewhere, but it's not like there's a whirlpool effect. If you're not a swimmer, you wouldn't want to be clutching an apple in one hand and kind of kicking and splashing in this cold cave water if something happened. But you managed to sort of kick your way down to the end of the chamber with an eye to doing what? You do come to the end of the cave, and there isn't a little.
Is there a little shelf or a ledge? I mean, I look up, I look down, I look left, I look right.
Let me think. Make a perception check.
All right, I'll try. 18.
Oh. Well, you know what? I was assuming that Chaz was going to be holding the apple, which would brightly illuminate everything up to right before where you are, and then dimly illuminate everything after that, in which case you would have had to make your check with disadvantage, and I don't know what would have happened. But you are actually able to see with the apple, which does just fine in the water, that it looks like beneath the surface of the water, and it's pretty deep here, beneath the surface of the water, maybe 5 feet down below you, is an opening into the side of the rock that heads eastward. There's a passageway. Not big enough to walk.
What would a doctor be doing in here? I asked as I dive into it.
You're diving in, you're going down?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm out of places to explore. There's still no doctor, so yeah.
Well, there's crocodile footprints you can follow. Okay. Crap. Fine. Now I do need you to make a swim check or an athletic.
All right.
You have the potion too.
Oh shit! That's right. You got one of these potions. You need it. That's right.
Well, I get a 17 just the same.
Okay. Let's reveal the map to the east. Just the path. Well, okay, that's fine. You swim through a passageway. Maybe 20 feet, so not that far. It should be pretty scary, but keep in mind, you're a 4th level monk. You're in really good shape. You might not be a swimmer per se, but you're a natural monk, and you're in really, really good shape. And if you had to bullshit me into using some key to be able to bootstrap something, you know that I'd probably let you get away with that.
Right.
You swim maybe 20 feet, and you can see the surface of the water above you, and you've really only been underwater, 15 seconds or something. And you break the surface of the water, and you find yourself in a small cavern, maybe 15 foot high, cool, damp, and it doesn't smell good. It's very unsavory. And on a dais at the far end of the room, so really just less than 10 feet away from you, is a crudely carved sculpture of a serpent. So the lower part of it is coiled, and then it rises up. Could be a cobra, maybe not. It's so ancient and so worn that it's hard to tell exactly what sort of a serpent it might be. But I need you to make a perception check.
Sex.
And that's all. That's all that that you reliably see. Where's everybody else while all this is going on? I guess they're outside. Chaz is by the pool. Probably nobody in the party really knows you've done this.
Right. We're all kind of like, where is Apteros?
I'm looking at the tracks again.
I thought he was right behind us.
I'll yell back. He hopped in the pool. I don't see him.
Why? Why?
Because, Amanda.
Why?
It was there.
Oh, okay. I suppose we should wait for him to come back out.
Presumably.
Yeah.
So you're in water now, up to the upper part of your chest, Abderos. So you haven't clambered up onto the ground there or examined anything.
I clamber out onto the ground there.
Okay. Well, this is kind of what happens. You clamber up onto the ground, and presumably you're looking toward that idol. Even if you're not staring at it, at some point you look at the idol, and you notice that its eye sockets have sort of crudely fashioned and smooth semi-precious stones set into the sockets to look like eyes. And your impression is that you are struck by a poison gaze from those eyes.
Well, that sucks.
It does. Well, let's find out how much it sucks. But poison appears to explode from the eyes of the snake, or from the direction of the eyes of the snake. So what is your armor class?
16.
Pretty good armor class.
It's gonna hit me anyway.
How do you know?
I know.
Okay, go ahead and roll for me. Roll a d20 and add 3 for me.
I'm gonna roll the same one I rolled a 3 on.
What do you get?
16?
This poison that explodes from the eyes of the idol spatters you. So go ahead and make a DC 12 Constitution saving throw.
All right. 5.
Okay. The poison hits you in the face. You can feel some of it go into your mouth. Some of it hits you in the eyes. You take 11 points of poison damage from being spattered with this poison. And
Have I been healed from previous damage or no?
when you left the hospital, doctors are not going to send you out from the hospital to find another doctor
Okay.
while you're
Fair enough.
Well, we'll heal you when you get back.
All right, fair enough.
But now you've taken 11 points of poison damage, and what you can see, you've heard of snakes that have a poisonous gaze. That is a legendary thing. And the first thing that happened when poison exploded and hit you in the face was that it appeared to come from the idol because you're in a shadowy area and you're clambering up onto a muddy strand. But as you stagger back with a face full of poison, you see slithering up from behind the statue a vile serpent. And if a serpent can be said to have a look of malice on its face, this one certainly does. So it was laying back behind the statue. It slithered up along the statue when you came in, and you failed to spot it, and it spattered you with poison. So it's big. It's as big as the statue. It's coming up out of like a hole or a layer behind the statue. And you can see as it slithers up and comes up over the head, it can be 15 feet long. It's big, and it has big fangs, and you can see poison dripping out of its mouth that it apparently squirted at you out of some gland.
All right, well, it's time to kill it.
Okay, well, you're all alone, you know.
Yeah, and it's dangerous. And snakes swim well, and I don't fight in the water. So running away is more likely to kill me in my estimation than this.
Roll for initiative.
Yeah.
And why don't we just have everyone roll for initiative, even though nobody's really involved? I just want to know what everybody's relative situation is in case they decide to do something. Just in case.
Could be relevant.
What do you get, Abdros? You're usually really quick, Abdros.
20.
That's what I mean by quick. Did you say 6, Chaz?
Yes.
All right. Well, you're just standing there.
17.
This is going to be great. No problem.
What do you get?
Coincidentally, I took lesser restoration, so if you're poisoned and you survive, I can always.
Does that fix death?
It
Because
fixes
if
poison.
I die, I'm going to need that to be fixed.
So you'll have an uncorrupted corpse.
Maybe.
3.
3? Did you say?
No, I got a 20.
Oh, a 20.
Yes.
Oh, that's very good. Okay, Abdros, this snake got the jump on you, but you see it, and you have the initiative now going into the first regular round of combat. So it's to you.
All right. Well, the inappropriately named leg taker comes out of its sheath. And
oh, that's your magic short sword.
That's my magic sword. I'm going to spend a point of key on the patient defense so that it gets disadvantage on its attacks, because I can't take 11 points of damage multiple times. That's a lot. And I'm going to attack it 2 times. All right. So leg taker gets a 23. Does that hit?
You only need a 12.
All right, I only need 12. Well, that's perfect. So then I hit twice, which means it takes 12 points of damage. How do you like that, snake?
It doesn't like it. You chop into it and put a gash on its head and then cut into its body as well. It doesn't seem to be, it's able to squirt poison, and it might have some other things going on, but what it doesn't have going on is any kind of real special defense. It's going to attempt to bite you, and it's attacking with disadvantage, you said?
Correct.
All right. Biting at +5. It rolls a 14 plus 5 is 19. If it wasn't attacking with disadvantage, it is, so it gets a total of 12.
Yay!
Your patient defense counts. I mean, that it's a stupid name, I suspect. You're not really patient. You're
Oh, I'm so patient right now, Mike.
You're impatiently defending the hell out of yourself as this thing attempts to bite you, and it fails to. It lunges. So it's wrapped around the idol, and it lunges forward and snaps at you with its fangs and misses you. And I will tell you something interesting. You can tell its bite isn't venomous. Its ability to squirt poison is venomous. Yeah.
As a free action, I tell it how much of a little bastard it is.
It winces. It's not used to being talked to that way.
Right.
So it missed you on its turn. Can anybody make a credible case for doing anything useful out where they are?
I would have no idea what's happening to Abdros, so not really.
Okay. Well, if anybody wants to make a case for why I should not be annoyed that they're attempting to do something, let me know. Otherwise, I'll move on to round 2. Is there anything I need to know?
Can Chaz see like the water roiling or something? Like,
Well, I'm standing at the edge of the pool. As far as useful, I probably at this point got bored and I'm starting to play my panpipe.
Yep. Yeah, you could do that. I'll allow that. All you know for sure is that you heard splash, 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 as Abdros went to the other side of the cave. Abdros, did you say, I see a passage and I'm going into it? I don't remember whether you said that.
I didn't say shit. I just did things. I was tired of people trying to talk me out of stuff.
And then suddenly, it just got quiet. So Abdros has now been gone.
6 seconds.
Well, no, because it took you a couple rounds to get through.
Yeah, either way, Chaz isn't going to get worried until it's a minute or two. So
Abdros has probably been gone about, we'll say, a total of, let's see, 1, 2, 3,
12 seconds.
5 rounds, 30 seconds.
okay.
Oh, a whole
Yeah,
half
so-
minute. I would be worried if someone who's swimming was quiet for half a
I'd
minute.
be so worried. Oh my God. If I was like actually with you and you like did this and you were gone a half minute, I'd be
panicking.
I
I'd
know.
be like, oh my God.
Something's going to be dead before Chaz gets worried, whether it's his dive buddy or not. So,
I'll let you drink something as a free action, Chad.
I'll drink some wine.
Round,
Something is going to be dead before Chaz gets worried. I like that line.
it's a good line. That's, I'm going to write that down because that is the line of the session. There's a line per session.
Yeah.
Easter egg for next time.
All right. It's to you, Abdros. This thing
All right.
is annoyed.
Does it have 17 hit points or fewer left?
No.
It has more?
It has 18.
Damn it. All right.
It really does.
I can kill it in 1 turn if if it was 17. All right.
You could still kill it in 1 turn if you get a critical hit.
Good point. I still spend my point of key on patient defense. I think that's the smart way to go.
When you're dealing with a poisonous snake, probably.
Yeah. And we're gonna roll a natural 20. Should you not? Yeah.
Oh.
So I crit, and yeah, that means that I get. Oh, and I roll a 7 on the other one, but you said its AC was 12.
Its AC is 12, yeah.
All right, so that's 14 plus 9 is 19 damage.
Well, I told you it had 18 hit points.
This one always does better than the other one.
The snake pulls back. You see it open its mouth. It's getting ready to squirt venom at you, and you move forward and thrust your sword up.
I chop its legs off.
You chop its legs off. Its legs scatter in every direction. You ram the sword up through the base of its jaw, and it goes up into its little snaky brain, and it starts to flail and thrash all around the idol, and you manage to pull your sword out and step back. And as you do, you can see blood and venom draining out of the wound of the creature and flowing out onto the rocky floor of the cavern before you.
I feel like that's bad.
Maybe.
So Chaz yells back at the rest of the party, "Hey, I'm starting to get worried."
Well, something did die in point of fact. You must have felt it in the ether.
Where's Abderos?
I don't know. He's been gone a while. Played my pipes. I've drank some wine. He's still not here.
Huh.
And I don't swim that well.
Wait, he went in the water?
Yeah, he swam back to the back to look for that priestess.
Princess.
What?
Did you say princess?
Priestess.
Oh, priestess.
Either way,
Either way. Same.
Could be both.
could be both.
Okay, so now that Mafia knows what's going on, she's also quite concerned. But is not necessarily any good at swimming.
No, that's probably true.
I'm not particularly good at swimming. I don't have it as a skill. I'm not a terribly doing physical stuff focused character.
I have a strength 8 and I don't have athletics.
Well, I'm better than a strength
Swimming's
8.
not my thing.
I have strength 14. Oh, I have strength 14 and I have athletics.
Okay, I would presume that the Amazon would be better at swimming anyway.
All right,
So I will shout, Dianara, I think Abderos went in the water. I think he might be in trouble.
She's been looking at the tracks, but she'll come in and go, he went in there?
And has been in there for some time, apparently.
All right, I'll head in.
All right. Meanwhile, what are you doing, Abderos? You see this thing's draining. It's all draining out, and its blood and its venom is all flowing everywhere at this point. So think about what you're going to do. Dianara?
Okay, you said I had a 2nd level spell.
You do have a 2nd level spell, yeah.
It can't be just any 2nd level spell, like, for example, protection from poison, huh?
I'd allow it. I specifically mentioned that some of these Amyonids, or whatever they are, Libyan princesses, might have poisoned their husbands. So that would probably fall into the boons they could.
The reason why I ask is because that spell particularly mentions that you can neutralize a poison with it. I just don't want to poison this cistern by accident.
Do you have religion?
No, but I am wise.
Make a religion check.
And despite my behavior, somewhat intelligent.
Well, this is a wisdom. No, I guess religion is intelligent based.
Wisdom's better. Can we do a wisdom?
No, it's intelligence, and it's an int check.
I hate it. It's 16.
Okay. All right. Hercules was here, what, 2,500 years before. So the whole idea that the same kind of monster that he encountered here is a monster that you're encountering just obviously is not the case. This is not what Hercules would have fought, or if it did, it's just a big coincidence. But the story is that when Hercules slew the Hydra, its body was so foul and so filled with toxin that it contaminated the spring and actually poisoned the local countryside. So there was a lot of collateral damage to the Hydra being killed because of the poison. And that just resonates with you. The memory of that story just comes back on you. So when you ask me flat out, am I concerned? Should I be concerned? That
No, I am concerned.
You are concerned because you told me you're concerned, and I'm telling you that you almost have a twinge of panic when you come up with it on your own.
Okay. In keeping with Hercules, 2 things. I know that this is the poison that kills the gods, and also, and therefore makes a potent weapon, the most potent weapon in all of Greek mythology, actually.
Yeah.
And also, I would use up that 2nd level spell to cast this protection from poison spell if I can.
Speaking as the person going into the water that has now been contaminated with all this poison, I kind of...
Well, you would have to make a saving throw against poison, Dianara. That is what we would be doing next, because you are now in water that would be contaminated. But there is a source of poison. There's a source of poison. And as per Black Letter that was just read to me, from a spell that we did not specifically discuss until just now, which is to say the result of very wise play on the part of Brenda and Abdros. The source of poison is negated. So there is a miasma of poison moving out into the water. And that poison is going to, for a long time, contaminate this area. But through magic cast at an opportune time and place, it's negated. You invoke the power of Amymone and her sisters. You negate that poison, Abdros, and there's no question in your mind that this thing, this horrible creature, would have poisoned this well and spring, and that you've negated that. And Dianara, you make it through the tunnel and you come splashing up through and you see this slaughtered 15-foot long serpent. And you can see that Abdros is crouching beside it with his hand on its head. And you sense that something has just happened, but that thing is not you making a saving throw against poison.
So you've been busy.
This, just so everybody knows, is a creature which was illustrated by Amanda some years back. This is the Hue, which is from Skirmisher Publishing's Men and Monsters in Ethiopia. And it is a vile serpent that makes its lair in village wells and contaminates the water, causing the villagers to die or have to abandon their villages. It is especially vile, and I usually don't go meta and just read rules right out of descriptions, but one of its traits is contamination. A Hiwe's venom is powerful and persistent enough that if it dwells in or its dead body is dumped into a water source, it will contaminate it, causing anyone who drinks the tainted water to suffer as much as 2d10 points of damage. Water flowing out of a contaminated area will become progressively less toxic the further it travels, causing as little as 2d8 to 1d4 damage and eventually none whatsoever. But this sacred spring, whereas it was not defiled by you spraying water all over it, would have actually been contaminated and poisoned indefinitely as a result of you killing this thing in it if you hadn't cast that spell. Now, if you hadn't killed it, Abdros, it just got here. If you hadn't killed it, it would have eventually contaminated the spring anyway. That would have been another adventure. So the fact that you found this thing and you slew it and then you negated its poison, you have completed this task in as great a way as you could have. Good job.
Yay.
I'm going to look at the thing's claws. Is this the thing that made the tracks?
Claws? There's no claws. It's a snake. There's no,
there's no
claws.
Okay. So this does not actually solve the problem of what happened to the priestess.
Not at all. This is, I won't say it's a red herring because it's a real creature that would have done bad things. If you hadn't explored this area and killed it, it would have, the next thing you would have been hearing once you got back, if you got back from bringing the priestess was, oh, well, now the spring's got poison water going out of it. And you would have had to go figure it out. Or someone would have. But no, there's no body of a priestess here. If it had eaten her and swallowed her, you'd still be able to make out her form in it.
And it doesn't explain the tracks we saw outside.
It does not explain the tracks at all. I told you, those were crocodile tracks. This is not a crocodile. It's like a big python. Well, why don't we say the party manages to reconvene.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Dianara, while you're in here, make a survival check for me before we leave here. You're muted. Are you muted and telling me you got a good number, or muted and telling me you got a character?
I am muted telling you I rolled an 8.
Does your dice roll anything but 8s and 9s?
Only when it matters.
So we'll assume this didn't matter. You all extricate yourselves from the cavern.
Unless I had an advantage, in which case I can roll a second one. But
No, I'm not just going to give you advantage because you asked for advantage.
Is there any
I mean,
grass in the cave?
no, I mean if it involves a favorite enemy, then I get to roll at advantage. But I don't know what I'm rolling about. So.
What is your favorite enemies?
Oh,
monstrosity. No, don't worry about it.
That was why that was the only reason I asked.
An 8 is enough for you to survive. You survive your visit to the cavern, and you and Abderos both make it out. So the party now reconvenes out front of the cavern, and you may now attempt, if you want, to follow the crocodilian tracks that you were talking about. So your party is now out front of the shrine. All of the water that went through the cistern has now completely dissipated or dried up and is gone. And you're back where watchful Vaphea found the little amulet of Asclepius, and you could see these crocodilian tracks that you've identified. And your desire is to attempt to track this, whatever it is.
So that would just be straight survival roll, right?
Let's make a survival roll, but Paul and I were doing a little exploration with skill checks in our last weekend game in what we call the kids game. And pretty much, Paul, if somebody helps you, you just get advantage on the check, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's so bootstrappy. But basically, if somebody agrees to help you, so 2 characters are dedicated to tracking, the one who has the best chance can make the roll, and the one who is helping them just allows you to make it an advantage. So what we're going to do is this. We've been
so basically, if you're out of combat and you're with somebody else, you're always rolling at advantage, which is probably about the equivalent of the old version of taking 20.
Yeah. So basically, we're going to let you make the roll. Your characters are not going to know how well you succeeded. You're going to make the roll, and where you end up as a result of that roll is going to be maybe where you want to end up if you get a good roll, and probably place that you don't want to end up if you make a bad roll. So who's assisting you in this is my question.
Who's got the best survival is what I'm asking. I've got a +3.
It doesn't technically matter for these purposes. It's just a matter of who wants to be committed to this task. And
sure, I'll help.
Okay. So Vaphea is assisting you with that. So I would say I probably want you to get a good roll on this one this time, Dayanara. That I want you to successfully follow these tracks.
14.
Jesus Christ! Do you have any modifiers to that? Does
Oh,
anyone have guidance? Has anyone got guidance or anything they can give you?
That's
that
with the
advantage?
+3. That is with advantage. It's just some nights just go like this, you know.
Goodness.
That's why I was going. Does anybody else have decent survival so that they can roll and not me because I'm rolling crap tonight?
I do have guidance, but
okay. Then roll a d4. So we're, you know what, Amanda? This is good. Amanda, we're going to assume, now, okay, hold on. Well, go ahead and roll it, Penny. Roll a d4. Or no, let Amanda roll it. She rolls better. Roll a d4, please.
I did roll better. I rolled a 4.
Okay, so you get an 18. So basically what this roll represents, Penny, is not you looking at these tracks and just magically making something happen. What happens is you follow the tracks, and then you're following things that kind of look like tracks, and then you're losing the tracks. And Amanda, who's perceptive, Vaphea, who's perceptive, is saying, well, could that be, the continuation of them there? So there will be places where it's more muddy or less muddy, and continuously, because this is going to be a process of a number of hours. Continuously, Vafea is casting guidance on you. So it's not that Vafea casts guidance once, it's that she's continually casting it as a cantrip to sort of bolster you as you're doing this, okay? So we're really looking at a couple of hours, and this is what happens. You find these crocodilian tracks because you had found them, you know how to identify them, and finding them and then losing them and picking them up again, and overall getting what we'll call in game terms an 18, which you could not have accomplished without Vafea's assistance. You work your way deeper and deeper into the swamp. You're moving mostly eastward and a little bit northward, and you're way off the pilgrimage trail at this point. So sometimes you're walking across bits of high ground that have little copses of trees, and a lot of the time you're in waist deep water that used to be farm fields and now just have rotting trees or the remains of outbuildings. So there's a lot of ruin, a lot of gloom, and you move deeper and deeper into the swamp. And you probably haven't gone that many miles further into the swamp, maybe 4 miles west by northwest. But that's a long ways in reality, because nobody's just going to casually be wandering off there. You're now in a deep, gloomy wilderness of swamp and rotting trees and little tiny marshy islands. But you have been following these crocodilian tracks. You've been following these crocodilian tracks and eventually come to a place where the hills rise up beyond the swamp. You've reached the furthest corner of the swamp. You're beyond any sort of human community at all. And you can see rising up from the swamp a huge muddy mound, probably about 1,000 feet long. Okay, so about 300 yards long. It appears to be sort of banana shaped. So the inner circle edge of it is away from you, and the outer circle of this curved 30-foot high grassy muddy mound is facing you. So what is that? Is that the convex? The outer curve of the mound is facing you, but it's about 1,000 feet long, and it curves around, and it stands out because it is like 1,000-foot long, roughly 30-foot high mound of mud and rock and trees, little trees, shrubby trees, and grasses rising up out of essentially an area full of grassy water. And you come through a copse of rotting trees, and this thing, this mound, with little copses of swamp trees and grasses and whatnot, is probably about 100 yards away from you. And you sense that this is where these tracks have led you. You can tell that your tracks have led you to this mound. And there is an Easter egg in here, and anyone who would like to reveal that they know the Easter egg at any point may do so if a 1,000-foot long, slightly curved, 30-foot high muddy mound resonates with anyone for any reason.
Viking ship burial.
What? No, it's no Viking ship. No. It's not a barrel, and it doesn't look constructed per se.
Not the big mound in Perlacher Forest by the housing area, is it?
No.
Ah.
I wouldn't have an Easter egg that only you could get. But as long as you ask, this is an Easter egg that probably only you will get. Technically, anybody could get it, but probably only you're the one with the most likelihood of actually getting it. And we'll move toward tying up soon. We're just going to take a few minutes now if you want to explore around the mound.
So before we start exploring, Abduros, what do you, I mean, I'm kind of the Band-Aid, right? So do you need any healing? I actually took Cure Wounds this time because we're looking for somebody that maybe.
I lost a third of my hit points.
Okay. So let me cure you. I think that's a D8.
And
Plus,
we're going to tie up this session within the next foreseeable future. We're going to let you explore a little and get to a good breaking point, but keep
Okay.
track of your hit points that you've lost. Keep track of spells or abilities that you've used, because we're going to pick up right where we left off next session.
so 8 points back.
Perfect.
Okay.
That helps a
So
lot.
we'll leave it at that. All right.
So where the hell is Eumaeus? We'll say he's a rear guard. Y'all are really paranoid, and he's trailing along behind you. So he'll be with you next session, presumably, but
He's fiddling with his armor.
or whatever the hell he
Technology.
technology. Oh no, it's buckles instead of ties. Ah. So you see this mound, and there's pretty much just not open water, but sort of waist deep, swampy water with grass and dead trees and things between you and it. But you can see pretty much the extent of it. You can see the left-hand side of it, the right-hand side of it. You can see it curves around. You can't see the far side of it. Like I said, about 30 feet high, which is, pretty good size.
Pretty
but
tall.
Sloping, it's not going straight up 30 feet. It looks like you could easily clamber up the side of it. It looks like you could fairly easily work your way around either direction.
Are there any crocodile tracks on the side of this?
From 100 yards away, you can't tell. I mean, you can presumably get closer to it.
I mean, have we seen smaller, like, crocodile or alligator holes? I guess crocodiles in this area.
You've got nature. You've seen.
I don't have nature, but I've got. Damn it! It's an intelligence skill. Okay.
Yeah, but you're a druid. Okay, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
tell you. You've seen evidence of the presence of crocodiles here. You haven't seen any crocodiles, but you ask about crocodile holes. You see some muddy strands where you could see crocodiles have been. You guys are on the lookout for crocodiles popping up and biting you. This is exactly the kind of place where a crocodile might pop up and bite you. But you don't see any crocodiles right here.
Okay.
But yeah, this is crocodile country. Let's go ahead and everybody make a perception check for me.
Okay.
Well, Vafea has been instrumental in this stretch because she really helped you with your tracking, Dayanara.
24.
Good
I
Lord.
don't want to talk about it.
All right.
I have a really
you know
good
what?
perception.
I have games like that, and it's called every hackathon game I play in. I'm like, oh my God,
Mhm.
again?
What? I got a 16, but ironically, my passive is 21. But I never get to use it.
Probably because I need to be doing some things differently. So I probably
Yeah.
need to, but I wanted this to be active because you are actively looking.
Are searching around.
But
yeah.
I need to be better about those passive checks. But who got the passive check when you did the raid on the farm, and that kept some runes from setting off and killing you? So we have used it before.
Yeah. I'm just complaining.
I know, and that's fine. That's part of the game. Well, Vafea, you are maybe 100 yards away from this mound, and what you can see is that an area of shadow right about in the middle of it. So it's 1,000 feet long, but right about in the middle of it, you see down near the base of it, a shadowy area really looks more like an overhang to you, as if there's an opening in the side of the mound.
I will point this out to the rest of my party and
You're
say
able to do that. Some see it quicker than others, but you're able to do that. They're able to see what you're talking about.
How big is the overhang?
Looks like that might be some sort of entrance. Yeah, how big is this space?
It looks like it's probably about 15 feet wide. Fairly wide, and maybe 5 foot above the level of the water. So it looks like you'd be wading, if you went up to it, if anyone went up to it, it looks like they'd be wading into it. But it's about 5 feet over the surface of the waist deep water. So what would that make it? You know, maybe an 8 foot high opening if the water remains 8 feet or at waist deep by the time you get up to the opening.
Right.
But what you're looking at is probably about 5 feet high and about 15 feet wide. Okay? That's about 100 yards away from you right now.
Okay.
And your party's just sort of arrayed in open formation, looking pretty much straight toward this thing.
Do we want to try to go in there? I think it would be worth exploring.
Sure. Why not?
I'm busy fixing the hole in my boot, evidently, based on my role. Sure.
Or do we want to look around it first? Like approach it from the top?
I think we should give up and go home.
What time is it? Or what time of day is it?
Well, you left early in the day. I don't know, probably mid to late afternoon, probably what we'd call about, 3 o'clock.
Oh, okay, so it's not like it's going to be dark soon, so.
It'll be dark eventually. It'll be dark, as Brenda would say, story time. It'll be dark when it is convenient for us to have it be dark. I mean, inconvenient for us to have it be dark.
Well, we have apples.
Oh, you've got it. How do you like them apples? Well, you like them a lot if they.
I really like them.
We're using them like a little phone flashlight.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's a gloomy day. It's real humid. You can't see the sun. There's a lot of haze, so it's gloomy and hazy, and it's sort of unpleasant smelling here. Oh, it's a swamp. It's not, a normal, fresh, wholesome, designated wetland.
So, is there a way to get to the 1,000-foot long mound without swimming through the murky water?
There are some areas that are clearly open water where you would have to swim through them, but the prevailing thing that you would have to go through to get to it is waist deep water with periodic little muddy mounds and tufts of grass that you can clamber up onto. You don't need to swim, as far as you can tell, to get to the mound. You could go through areas where you would have to swim. There are little lakelets, but if you don't want to swim, you can just go through waist deep water to get there. There's no halflings in the party.
Okay, and is that kind of what we've been doing?
Yeah, you've been doing that for a couple hours now.
Okay, so I guess it doesn't make much of a difference if we do it another 100 yards just to get onto the mound, get out of the water.
It only makes a difference if, for example, there are crocodiles here, in which case you're going to have to make perception checks, and they're going to get to make opposed stealth checks, because you do know that this is crocodile country. But no, you're not doing anything different. The water could there could be any eventualities. I'm not going to make any guarantees, but as far as you could tell, you'll be going through waist deep water to get to the mound. If that's right.
Okay, so as I go through the waist deep water to the mound, I'm specifically not paying attention to the crocodiles so that my passive perception can kick in.
There seems to be something broken here, but
the way passive perception is supposed to work is Mike has them all recorded, and anything less than that amount is just automatically discovered.
It just seems so bullshit to me, but that's fine. I really like a post check because I like to hear the clatter of dice and hear the groans of the damned. But
yeah, well, fine. I'm a satyr with a high wisdom with proficiency in perception and the observant feat. So it's supposed to seem broken. I mean, this guy's supposed to see everything.
God damn it, there's no crocodiles here yet.
I
No
think there's some
crocodiles.
crocodiles. We should be very careful.
I know there's no crocodiles. I'm just going to walk over there. Because I never miss anything. I would see them if they...
That's true.
All
You
right.
can make out
I'm a
croc-
ranger, you know.
Are
Kenny
we on
can
the
only
mound
make
yet?
out where their feet were. All right, so what is your party doing?
I'm walking over to the high ground. I'm tired of having wet feet.
Okay, so we'll just say that your party's bearing to the left of that overhang or opening or dark
Right.
area that Thea pointed out, and it'll be maybe 50 feet to your right as you move your way over to the mound. Does that make sense? Is that fine?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Mhm.
You make it over to the edge of the mound in good order, and it probably, I don't know why it's here. It was probably, I call it a mound. It would look like a little hill if it wasn't all just muddy and what. It's a little hillock. It's a little hill that just happens to be surrounded by water. Calling it a mound is a term of art, but it's a little hillock coming up out of the swamp, and you're over to the edge of it at this point. And it looks like you can clamber up the side of it to the top fairly easily if you so desire.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. I want to see if there's a remnants of a bonfire and some
Mhm.
upside down, places where they would hang bodies and things like that.
Well, all high areas at one time or another get used for those things. So we can presume that happened here a couple of times. So that's given. Going back to the question, what are the odds that this ever happened here? 100%. But you make it, are able to clamber up to the top of the mound. I mean, you're going 30 feet up. You're probably going about, I don't know, to get to the top, you're probably going about 150 feet. So you're going 150 feet forward and 30 feet up and sort of moving up, over little mounds of rock and tufts of vegetation. And you make it up to the top of the mountain. Who's going with you? Who's staying behind? What's going on with all that?
Oh, I may
I'll
as
go
well
with.
go up. Yeah, I may as well go up there as well.
Okay, so the Thea is tramping up after you. Dianara is tramping up after you. What about you, Abderos? What is your deal?
What is your deal?
What is your deal, Abderos? What are
After I'm
you,
going to go somewhere else to fight the real monster.
what are you
He's
doing,
going to
Abderos?
swim underwater through the
Yeah.
opening.
I swim underwater through the opening.
You don't need to swim through it. You can just walk through it. Are you
But he
wa-
chooses to anyway.
Where's
Are
the
you
challenge
going-
in that?
Are you going 50 feet to the right and going over to the opening while the party's climbing up to the top of this thing?
There's another cave.
No, they're going up to the top of the mound, and then there's an opening that they're bypassing for now.
Yeah,
No,
I
I'm
mean,
gonna follow the party. I don't intentionally split the party. It only happens when they don't do things.
I was just some fun things gonna happen. Okay, well, all of you make it up.
Like I get attacked by a crocodile.
Well, fun's a relative term, but yes. You
Get
make it up.
attacked by the entire reptile family.
The
You
whole
make it,
everything.
you make it up to the top of the mound. And why don't everybody go ahead and make a perception check for me now as you scan the area sloping down to the other side of the mound.
there's a big pulpy octopod. 18.
Okay, and let's see.
17.
Yay!
And I'll reveal different things to everybody if you,
I rolled a natural 20.
Oh, I'll really reveal something to you then. You're going to see something good or something interesting. And what about you, Fafea?
This time I rolled poorly. I got a total of 12.
I'm starting to think this one is weighted. That's the second 20 tonight.
It's unusual.
These ones I confiscated from players back in high school because they are weighted.
Oh.
Cheater dice.
They're cheater
Check that
dice.
on, check
I
that
don't know,
on
I've rolled-
Amazon.
I've
I've never
rolled-
heard of weighted D20s.
I rolled
It's
5
not
and
that they're
rolled
weighted,
5.
it's that the high numbers are positioned in such a way that you get them more often than others.
Oh, I see.
And hold on a second.
I don't see why somebody wouldn't get a natural 20 more than once in a game. I've had like a natural 5 3 or 4 times tonight, so.
That's true.
All right, hold on. I need to send myself something. Give me just a second, guys. Something that I thought was on the one computer, but isn't. Right. Dianara and Chaz, what did you say you rolled, Fefe?
12.
Oh, okay. Well, you don't notice anything but swamp and whatnot. Dianara and Chaz, I'm trying to get a picture of the mound onto my computer over here at this point. So just bear with me while I do that. But down in the sort of curving around area, you're looking down now into the concave part of the mound, you can see at the base of the mound sort of a muddy strand, and you can see laying out on this muddy strand and even swimming around in the pool of water before it, some crocodiles. You knew that eventually you would see some. You knew they were there, and so they are. So there are, in fact, actual crocodiles here. You see at least 3 or 4 of them down below. So they're a couple 100 feet away from you at this point. All right.
Okay, well, we'll point, or I'll point that out to you.
Yeah, you're like, oh my God, there really are crocodiles here. They don't look exceptional. They look like crocodiles. I mean, they're dangerous, and there's a few of them, but they don't look unnatural in any way. They look
okay. Well, I'm a druid, so I'm not going to arbitrarily kill them unless they're trying to.
They're not trying to do anything. They're just lounging. And Dianara, these are crocodiles. How long is a crocodile? You know, I don't know, 10 feet long from nose to tail, 12 feet long. They're pretty good sized. You can see their little scaly, misshapen feet. You sense, Dianara, that these could very well be have the sort of feet that would make the footprints that you saw.
But what were they doing at the well?
It would be quite a trek for them. I mean, it's miles away.
Is this something that a druid could do? Command animals?
Maybe.
Well, they could, yes, command animals or shape change, different things like that.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to share my screen here.
But why would they grab this priestess?
Tastes like chicken.
Everything does. Okay, let's see. Why is this fighting me on sharing my screen? Here we go. All right, now what I'm going to show you is very, very, very rough, but this is just an outline of the 1,000-foot long mound, okay? So I'm going to show you an outline of the 1,000-foot long mound. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So it's pretty rough. Your party is right up here. Can you see where I'm moving my cursor?
Yeah.
So each one of these squares is like 30 feet, okay? So you're up in this 30-foot square, all of you. The entrance to this thing, or whatever it is, that open area that Faye identified, is right here, okay?
Okay.
And then this area down here is open water with a muddy strand and a bunch of crocodiles. So you're up here, crocodiles are down here. Whatever it is, the overhang, the 15-foot wide, 5-foot high area, dark area is right over here, okay? You don't recognize this thing, Paul?
No, my only guess would be the mound from Call of Cthulhu. I mean,
No, Paul. 2 guesses and both wrong.
I have no idea what it is. It's a big muddy mound in a swamp.
I will tell you when we are
Okay.
not live. So, what is your party going to do? You see crocodiles, you see swamp. Abdros, you got a natural 20. Abdros, to the left of where these crocodiles are, and sort of spread out through the swamp below you, you see what looks like a matrix. This is something that only your sharp eyes and a bit of luck reveal to you. But what you're seeing are areas that look like 20 foot by 20 foot squares or 10 foot by 10 foot squares, all divided up by partitions, fences, under the water. So you're looking down into a partitioned area. You're looking at maybe as many as 20 or a couple of dozen partitioned areas ranging in size from 5 foot square, 10 foot square to 20 foot square. And in some of them, you can see fish swimming around.
Fish farms. Crocodiles don't make fish farms.
But
Hey,
not
even
in your-
cultists might
think
make
so.
crocodile farms. Could be a
And-
crocodile farm.
And you're able to point this out to your companions, of course. So this is all shared knowledge at this point. Everybody is able to see.
And these are all underwater.
Yeah, it's not deep underwater. I mean, the partitions might come right up to the edge of the water or to the surface of the water, but enough that the catfish in them aren't going to be able to just swim out.
I'm going to use up a spell slot and cast Primeval Awareness.
Oh, God. Damn it. Tell me what this thing does. I know what it does, but
For 1 minute per level of the spell slot expended, so I'm just going to use one spell slot, one first level spell. I can sense whether the following types of creatures are present within a mile of me.
I hate this.
Just checking, aberrations, celestials, dragons, elementals, fae, fiends, and undead. But it doesn't tell me where they are, or how many there are, or whatever. But just if there's something around.
There is a dragon.
Oh,
And you have never before sensed the presence of a dragon.
all right. There's a dragon here, folks.
Where? I don't see one.
No, you won't.
We don't want to see a dragon.
Well,
The 5th edition has so much bootstrappy bullshit. How do you surprise anyone with anything? You know, Ranger, with your preternatural spell-fueled sense that there is, in fact, a dragon.
Is it
I
a
think
happy
yours-
dragon
yours-
or a sad
think-
dragon?
I think your spell sense is broken because I don't see a dragon anywhere.
It's just within a mile, and she doesn't have to be able to see it, and assume it's not happy.
Okay.
Just probably a good rule of thumb when dealing with dragons.
Well, if the dragon is celebrating at a party with more than 5 attendees, then my satyr sense kicks in to discover whether it's having a party.
Oh, okay. Tell me what your satyr sense does. No, this is relevant. Tell me what your satyr sense does.
A satyr's senses are preternaturally sensitive to the sight, sounds, and smells of joyous celebration. A satyr becomes aware of parties and celebrations with more than 5 attendees within a 1-mile radius. If more than one celebration is present, the satyr's senses indicate the path to the most riotous.
Wow, very specific senses.
Yeah, well,
I actually love
I didn't
that.
want to be vague because I know
I love it too. Party senses.
Party sense.
Party sense.
Party
When I have a
sense.
satyr
Who would have
around.
thought this thing would actually be relevant in the context of just a straight adventure? Okay, well, I'm going to tell you a couple of things. Abdros has picked out the fish farms, but it's not just fish farms. It's different kinds of plants and other things. It's an agricultural area, which is beneath the surface of the water. Vafea and someone else, or somebody saw the crocodiles. You picked all that out. Vafea spotted the entrance to something below. Chaz, there's a party in the works. There is a riotous party. People, well, I don't know if that's the right word. Somebody is getting ready for an imminent celebration right now.
I share this with the party.
A celebration,
And there's a dragon.
a full-blown celebration is in the works right now.
I wonder if we're the main course.
There's a party going on.
So there's a party. You better go.
Let's go crash it. So I have the feet. I mean, it isn't just to know there's a party.
All
It's so
right.
I can go attend it.
It's so that you can actually visit it.
Yeah.
There is a party in the offing. Now, I can't tell you where the dragon is. You know it's within a mile. I can't tell you where the party is. You know it's within a mile. But you are adventurers, and through painstaking effort, you did wend your way here. And the only feature worth noting in any way that you've seen in 2 hours is this mound. So I'm not telling you that the party's in the mound. I'm not telling you that the dragon's in the mound. I'm not telling you those things. But this is all you see. And I want you to move things along enough that I can reveal a thing to you before we break.
Well, I think we should probably head into the mound because I don't see anything else
I think
going
it's
on
time to go
around
in.
here.
Time to go in or go home.
Sounds good to me.
Why does everyone keep saying go home? You clamber back down the hill, unless you say otherwise, the way you came. When you get to the base of the mound, you hang a hard left. You're wading through waist-deep water and moving over toward this opening. When you get to the opening, and I don't have this drawn right now, but we're just going to do this narratively because you're not going to be going very far into this before we break. When you get to the mound, what you're looking at, to the overhang, what you're looking at is a water-filled 15-foot wide area, and you can see just with light from outside that it widens to about 30 feet. It looks like there is a maybe 30 by 30 area once you get past, like a passageway to get inward. Half of it is filled with water. It's like a big version of the thing that you were in, Abderos, where you fought that snake. And half of it is just like a little muddy strand, a muddy beach. So maybe a 30-foot wide, 15-foot deep strand of mud that is covered with rubbish and bones and carcasses, just all sorts of detritus. It looks like it's a cross between a dump and a workplace. So there's the remains of butchered animals, there's bones, there's trash, torn bits of clothing, and the whole area, Dayanara, is trampled up with footprints, dozens of sets of footprints overlapping and intermingled of the sort that you identified. So you've moved 15 feet in, you're in a 15 by 15 area, 15 foot wide, 15 feet deep, and you're looking into essentially a 30-foot wide, 30-foot long circular cavern, not a high ceiling, only about a 10-foot high ceiling. Half of the cavern that's nearest to you is full of water, and the half of the cavern that is furthest from you sort of slopes up onto a muddy beach. And at the end of the muddy beach is a dark opening that leads further into the mound.
Are any of the bones obviously human?
Yeah, sure. The skulls and the rib cage.
Yeah, all right. Just checking.
None of them look particularly fresh, though, because none of them look worth having a celebration over.
Yeah, that would be us.
To say.
Yeah.
Well, you keep saying you, but as who was it that said, did you forget that you're looking for a missing doctor? So that, what did Adro say? Oh, I did.
I did forget.
Forgot that's what we were here for.
You don't see like anything fresh here at all. Fish carcasses, and it's just a mess. So you're in a cavern, and you can see an opening into a passageway leading further into this area. And maybe this is a good place to break. Unless you want to go a few more minutes. I go either way on this until you actually encounter something and then get an insight into what you're dealing with, or we can snip it here.
We can make it all mysterious for next time.
That's fine with me. So when we begin next time, you are in a muddy cavern in the entrance, a venue into this mound. You'll be able to clamber up onto this little muddy beach and examine it if you want, but you're not going to find anything. And then there's a 5 foot wide, maybe not high, 5 foot wide, dark passageway leading further into the mound. And that is where we will pick up next time.
Okay.
All right. And it looks like there's crocodile footprints everywhere, Dayanara. So who the hell knows what that means? But this is actually a good place to break. And then next time, we're essentially going to be going straight into a dungeon adventure. So good. I think this went well. I will stop the recording. And then if anybody has any questions before you all exit, we will do that. If you've stuck with us for this game so far, I hope you had fun. We try to keep it lively. We've got a smart party and a good mixture of paranoia and cooperation and dissenting opinions, but all ultimately good-natured and striving toward the same goals. So I think it's an ideal party. I hope everybody who's watching has had fun with it. And we hope to see you next time when we reveal that this is the mound of the whatever. So we hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time.